What's up, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny and Absy for the Best Gaming Podcast. Hopefully, our audio is pretty level across the board. If you have to turn us up a little bit or turn us down a little bit, I apologize. Trying to do some new setup here at the house so that I can get some different videos created. It'll probably not pan out like always, where I'm always like, I'm going to do this thing, and then it doesn't work. I'm like, God damn it. But I'm going to try. Trying's half the battle, as I said in the Atlas review. And we're going to talk about Atlas as well. We're definitely going to talk about Atlas Fallen. Did either one of you guys get it?
No, but I've been looking forward to it for a while. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it now.
On the fence is a good place to be.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do Remnant 2, if anything, as my next multiplayer game. Because I haven't touched that yet. Yeah.
That game is sweet. What about you, Johnny? Are you doing any Atlas Fallen? You doing Remnant still?
No, I'm just doing Baldurs, focusing on that before Starfield comes out.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of big games.
These games take me a long time, dude. Like 100 hours or something.
Same. Dude, I'm 60 hours in. I just got to Act 2.
Yeah.
60 hours in. Yeah, I just take my time, so it's gonna take
Remember
a while.
our discussion, and yes, everybody, I do have a little bit of a shiner. Did get popped in practice. Yeah, we talked about this with Atomic Heart, where you and I were laughing because like it was 3 or 4 hours,
like 25 hours
for some people. Yeah, maybe not 3 or 4 hours, but it was like 8, and we were at like 30, and we were still, 3/4 of the way through.
I wasn't even halfway done, and I was at like 30.
Yeah, the DLC popped for that too. The new DLC.
Gone back to it.
It's middling. It's got some really good settings and locations. It's a little linear, and as somebody else pointed out, there aren't as many new creations you might be hoping for, but overall, I'm pretty fine with it. Jeffrey with the $10 super chat. Thanks for the content. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Evening, everybody, or morning, or mid-afternoon, depends on where you are. What time? Speaking of that, it's 10:30 for me. What is it for you guys?
8:30 p.m.
Johnny?
And 6:30 p.m.
There we go. Okay, so we'll try to get through it without doing a Johnny Jeremy podcast like last week. What was that, like 5 hours?
That went wild, man. We went some weird places. With that
you
one.
and me and you and Absy, or and me and Absy have had by far the longest podcasts. It's been insane.
Oh yeah, well, we just go into AI and random.
We were doing AI, and then Johnny and I were talking about ghosts and fucking Bigfoot and UFO, and it was just
it was great.
By the way, one of the highest viewed podcasts we've ever had. Like, which funny because people might say that end is what caused people to watch it, but that's not. They have to get through it to get to the end. True. So the retention is insane. I looked at it. I normally don't look at the podcast stuff because it doesn't do as well, but the number of views were high. And then I actually, for the first time in a long time, saw people sharing it. Podcasts are so hard to share now because everybody's got them. Even we've talked about it, where I try to tell you guys about a podcast and you're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to add another podcast? Yeah. How am I going to add another one to my slate of stuff covered? So thank you, everybody, for showing up. This is the Best Gaming Podcast. Tweet it out to your friends if you are able to, or on Twitter. Let's jump into the first bit of discussion, which is, let's cover Atlas Fallen first. So it got middling reviews, and I would personally say those are pretty right. The combat put it slightly over the edge, as well as a cheaper price. Once again, price does matter in game reviews, and I stated it very clearly. I was like, I'll die on this fucking hill.
It's the foundation of what you're rating it up against.
It's like, that's what it cost me, so I'm going to rate it for like what it delivers. But man, the combat is good. It's so stupid because I'm not saying it's platinum good, but there were times where I thought of Nier Automata when I was playing. Like
interesting.
Yeah.
But it looks jank, man. It looks like from just looking at it.
It is. I mean, technically,
but it plays better. I mean, I've seen that before.
The combat is not jank. No, the combat is loose, dude. The combat is like ESP loose. So for example, an enemy to hit me. And sometimes it'll hit you in a game and you're like, that didn't hit me. Dude, I was hitting them going, I whiffed that. I didn't hit them. So I was okay with that because it was happening to me and the hitboxes seemed off for them sometimes. Okay. So I was like, you know what? As loose as this is, but I got to tell you guys, if you saw the first Transformers, when fucking one of the Transformers comes up out of the sand and it's exploding, that moment is replicated so many times. And I got to tell you, in Atlas Fallen, when one of those comes out and there's just like sand, I was like, this is awesome.
That's cool.
It's just that a lot of the other stuff is not.
No sandworms, but you have like crabs,
Well, you do have sandworms, sand dragons.
No, like big sound, like the ones that burrow under the sand and come out.
Yeah, you do have those. Yeah, I guess you do. I didn't think about it, but yeah, you do have those. Combat's great. Gauntlet's 10 times better. He's like a natural conduit for information.
Did you like the it wasn't called tenacity,
momentum?
What was it called? Momentum. Did you like that mechanic?
Yeah, you know, I didn't love it, but it didn't get in the way. Like when I attacked, I was like, oh, I could possibly take more damage, but I was spending momentum so fast that if there was going to be a position where I got hit because my momentum was high, it was probably because I just didn't hit the whatever action I wanted to take as quickly. Right. I did the passives for the first 2 parts of the bar, passive, just, you know, strength, or passive damage, passive armor. And then after that, I did some quick attacks.
Difficulty-wise, between Surge and a normal action combat game?
Way towards normal action combat. Not even a millionth as difficult as Surge.
They don't hit like a truck and you die in like 2 hits or something?
No. No. There was a couple bosses that I like. There was one boss that I don't know what was going on. I was just like, oh my God, I'm smashing my head against him. I beat him, but it was like 10 fights versus 150 and Neo 1 or so, you know, where like I wasn't prepared and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was good. Right. I mean, it was good in a good sense, but it's got all the jank you see. Every bit of jank you see is replicated.
Annoying flying creatures, I think.
Yes, I don't know. Dude, remember when you tried to jump in Final Fantasy VII Remake? And because there were air enemies.
Oh, because there's a lot of air enemies. Dude, and you don't have
the same thing happens.
Guy with you.
But you can jump, but they're so high sometimes. And then the camera will be like, I got to show him the enemy. And you're like, oh God, I'm going to vomit. Yeah, that definitely happened. But once you get up there, dude, you can stay in the air forever because you can, when you hit, it resets a bunch of stuff. And then I was right. You can sort of jump off enemies. And then you get 3 or 4 dodge bursts. So pretty soon you're like, dodge. And
it's like you're juggling yourself in the air with all your attacks instead of juggling enemies.
Yeah. And then if you have momentum, so let's say you jump and attack, then you do momentum, then it resets everything or some stuff. So like pretty soon you're in the air just like, and a new enemy, I believe a new enemy might reset it because there were like 4 or 5 flying guys and I'd be like, bang, bang, bang. And then go over here, bang, 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 and I would stay up. So,
how's the combo potential?
It's not about combos. It's about building to doing your
abilities.
Yeah.
It's more cooldown based-ish.
Well, cool up, because you're building them.
Cool up.
So it's more, what would you like, build up based. Yeah, and that is different. But yeah, the combos are like XXY, hold Y, hold X.
No directional inputs and crazy shit.
No, it's not. No, but there's so many jewels that you could have absolutely 100% different jewels. Yeah. What were we gonna say?
Sorry,
Johnny?
I was gonna say I noticed 2 things looking at your review and others. One is it seems when you kill one of the limbs or several of the limbs, it doesn't really change what the boss is able to do.
No, it does.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. They pull off. So they have a berserk mode, I guess is what you would say. And so some of the bosses, it depends on the boss, but some bosses and normal, some just bigger enemies in the game world. If you do, they can pull off completely different moves. If you're on the medium and higher difficulties, if somebody played it on easy, they don't.
But what I was thinking is, because what I would expect is if I destroy an arm, I would expect the guy to not be able to hit me with the arm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that sort of, does that happen or is it different?
It would be more along the lines of a guy is incredibly armored and you're beating his armor off. So you can still hit that arm as a base body hit, but it doesn't do any more like specific limb damage. But what they do is they switch up their moves and you'll start to see them pulling off specials. Rampage moves is what I call them, but you'll see them. One of the guys has a sweet one that pops up, but I saw a lot of people playing it on easy, and which I'm not saying it's just because we brought it up, but I saw a lot of reviews where it was on easy, and that would have less reactions than medium and hard.
Got it.
So it depends on what you play.
Yeah. And the other thing I noticed real quick is sometimes the attacks from you seem a bit slow. Because I was looking like, the enemies would attack you pretty quickly, but your attacks kind of have a wind up to them, don't they?
Does that feel a heavy weapon?
Yeah, it depends on what you're using, Johnny.
Okay.
And I do know that some people weren't showing some items because they haven't been as open about weapons as they were about the jewels. So a good reviewer will try to talk about it, but maybe not show it to spoiler it. And I saw a lot of people trying not to spoiler some stuff. Good on them, by the way.
At least visually, did you feel like, for me, just watching it on YouTube, the impact on you hitting an enemy doesn't seem that satisfying, but I don't know if it is when you're actually playing it.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, satisfying is different for different games, but you don't get this like... So to build up momentum, think about it this way. If you tried to build up momentum and the enemy kept stun ranging out of your spot, then you couldn't build up momentum. So the developer has to figure out a way to make it look like they got hit, but also not remove them from you to building momentum.
Pushed back.
And that's one of the things I talked to a reviewer about, who actually put it in his review, because we were talking. He was like, dude, they don't move back. They just shudder a little bit. I'm like, well, if they did move back, the entire momentum system would be broken. He was like, oh my God, like, I get it. Like, and by the way, that's not like something brand new I picked up. It's from talking to a game dev or another reviewer who randomly will mention it, and I'll be looking at a game going, oh, I get it. But yeah, I would say it doesn't look... Here's the thing. It's a B-level game at a B-level price. Gotcha. Yeah, sound effects were okay. I will say this. If the pop-up was fixed, that game would have rated higher, because it is so egregious. It is like a reverse shooting range. Just constantly shit flipping back up. So instead of shooting a range target down, it's just everywhere you go. Fling, 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 everywhere. And it's not a radius around you. It's not an LOD situation. It's LOD as the game. It's just everywhere you go, there's something popping up in your way. And that's really bad. Hey, Johnny, can you mute if you're typing? Because that's coming across. I'm going to get complaints. Yeah. That's all right. I just don't want to get complaints. So that's one of the things that's popped up. But overall, I would say the scores are about right. It'd be a little bit higher if it was technically proficient, which, because there are parts that look amazing. Amazing lighting in some locations. But nice. You got to have good performance, and pop-in is an old-style problem, man. Like, right?
Performance was fine.
Performance was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't amazing. There were some drops I had, but that depends on your CPU, your GPU. I will say I found out something weird, and then somebody else covered it, but I was so nervous about saying it and being like, this is just my system or something. And I tried to test it, and it always came up correct on my system, but you never quite know. It doesn't use your CPU and GPU as much as it should. So when I was playing, I was like 60% sometimes, and I wasn't getting bad frames. I was just low CPU and GPU usage. And I was like, interesting. It's still getting the FPS that's more acceptable than Remnant 2. But then later I went and looked and found out, oh, yeah, looks like other people had found that too. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Let's move on from there and start talking about some more Baldurs Gate. So how many hours do you guys have in Baldurs?
I'm at exactly 62.8 hours right now. Let me
62.
See. 62.7. 62.7.
And I'm 36.
36 hours. All right. So real quick, Johnny, that seems low for you with a weekend between conversations. Was that just you were busy?
So while in the weekend, I was also finishing Final Fantasy 16, and then just work during the week has been a lot. So
yeah, so just didn't get a chance to jump in. And then Abzi was gone on vacation, got to play a bunch. 60 hours, and you said you're not in 3 yet? You're not in Act 3?
I just got to Act 2. I've been in Act 2 for 2 hours. So it took me around 60 hours to beat Act 1. I think 2 or 3 of those hours was me making a character in my friend's game, and we were just Lord of the Rings characters. But yeah, 60 hours to beat Act 1. I'm not... A lot of people I've seen were like, oh, it takes this much, you clear this map and this, and I'm not necessarily just like trying to clear everything, you know what I mean? I'm not like playing 100% type thing. I just it's just kind of taking me in directions. I'm just kind of going with it, and I guess I'm just talking to a lot of people and reading a lot of lore stuff. I guess I just take a long time in games. Yeah, I would say the average would take you like around 20 to 30 hours for Act 1.
Yeah, one of the conversations I saw was like people are saying they went to a spot and said this area will be bitterly difficult for your team. I don't remember a place I entered that didn't say that, and I did fine. So whatever their worry was when this warning came up, it didn't hit me. I would go into it anyway and be like, some of the battles will be a little bit harder or whatever. But I was talking to a guy last night on Discord who said like he had one battle that was like 2 hours long, and I mean, I didn't have anything near that.
God damn.
Yeah, even on the massive battle that I used for testing the video card and the graphics performance it was like 15, 16 people, 24 people, I can't remember, but it didn't last 2 hours. I mean, it lasted a long time.
I guess it depends on like the person's build and what he's doing.
Yeah, if they have a chip defensive build of some kind, or if they're, if they don't learn to overutilize shove. Dude, when I learned how to shove somebody into position to attack, that changed my entire. So you move through enemies and they have that attack of opportunity, and I was so tired of getting that, so I started learning to shove the guys that were going to take the next turn into the center, so that way they didn't get attacked for attacks. So I would just land near one of my friends and be like, see ya, bitch, and push him into the enemies, not have to worry about the attacks of opportunity. And he'd just stand up and you'd still be able to take half of your turn.
And that in combination with the jump is super powerful, because if you get strength, like my fighter dude, he can jump like an athlete. Like it's insane.
No, it's beyond an athlete.
Jump right in the middle of stuff, shove, and like get 5 attacks or something because he's a fighter.
So good, isn't it? So good. When you get that double attack, it's great. When you get that secondary attack on your character class,
level 5, right, or something.
You're like, here we go, baby. Because I did 2 weapon attack, or I did 2, a weapon in each hand. Then I took one of the skills that lets you use a larger weapon in each hand. Then I took the extra attack, and by that point, you're just like flailing and throwing all these different moves. Feels so good.
I just recently got a ring on my high strength person, which adds a 1d8 or 1d6 damage to when you shove people, or when people drop from you, whether it's shoving or throwing.
Yeah, whether it's shoving. Oh my god, whether it's shoving.
Dude, throwing is awesome, man. Yeah, and shoving. Dude, throwing fucking gnomes or throwing like a goblin at like another enemy, and especially if you're in berserker stance or whatever, and they just prone. And
I was telling Johnny, you can also, if you get a guy who says too big to shove, if you take an enlarge spell, you go up a level in who you can shove and pick up.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it'll be like too big to shove, and you'll be like, not for long, bitch. I'm HGH in this. And then pretty soon and it's just like all the things they thought of. Well, admittedly, this is all D&D rules. So some of this stuff they didn't have to think of. They had to implement it. And they did a good job at implementing everything. And that includes the RP part, the role-playing part, the true like D&D, we're a party, what do you want to do? Who do you want to talk to part? They did a really good job.
One thing I always complain about RPGs is when they present you with a dialogue choice, but you have to just exhaust every question to get to the one that like continues it. It doesn't do that here, man. No. You just you can get like 4 questions, you ask one of them, and it just moves the conversation forward. I really like that. I love that.
Yeah, they did a very good job with how they put it all together. PI says, and thanks for the super chats, peeps. I'll read them in a second. PI says, hey, Carrick, as a YouTuber, do you ever feel the videos have a short life cycle? For example, would you say there's little to no way to push older videos? Yeah, I've talked about that not only in personal videos and patron stuff, but also occasionally at the end of a review or whatever. Reviews have no half-life. The only time I see a bump in a review is a sale on GOG or Steam. And I'll be like, why is everybody coming to this old ancient review? And then it'll be like, oh, it's a remake, or makes sense. It's not even a billionth. What I have noticed is people will get confused if you do a preview. So if you do a preview and then you do the review, now I've started to unlist the preview because people will push views into the preview, and then you'll just get complaints because they weren't reading. It's their fault, but you still get a bunch of complaints or whatever. And it's like, all right,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Let's see. How do you guys think the console experience is going to be? Oh, PS5 and Xbox? I don't see anything in this game that looks difficult for a PC.
For a console?
Or for a console, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
And by the way, I should say I was wrong in my prediction that when we talked about how buggy is the game going to be, my prediction was that it was barely going to be held together.
Yeah.
But actually, for me at least, very few bugs I've run into. Surely some, but honestly, very solid.
I agree. It's way beyond what I thought.
Yeah, me too. I thought whole interactions were gonna get fucked, but I do get bugs. Like I see bugs once every hour or so. Once every couple hours maybe. Like sometimes, especially if you're talking to the dead corpse. If you're talking to a corpse,
that makes sense. T-pose, yeah, something T-pose or something weird.
I think I met a person that was invisible. I just reloaded and it fixed. But the most annoying one that I have right now is there's a permanent exclamation mark over Will's head.
Oh.
You know the exclamation mark where it's like your companion needs to talk to you?
I think I had that I don't know if you saw it.
And I talked to him and he wouldn't say anything. So,
right. Yeah. And if you try to sleep, it still says you have somebody in party who wants to talk to you. Is that? Yeah, me too. I did get that. I did. And I just, to be honest, thought it was me and that I wasn't tracking. But then I saw, who's the guy from Germany? He's in our, he's a big D&D fan. Oh, Jesus, it's skipping me. But in our Discord, there's a guy there who was having it for sure. He's like, just tell me who it is that wants to talk, because it's not this guy.
Because it popped up right after I read a note about something related to him. But then I kind of traveled a little bit down, but it was still there. And then I talked to him, and it didn't trigger it. I don't know what it was. I submitted a bug report.
How does it work on controller? Gorgeous, man. Dude, I didn't mind the mouse and keyboard, but I played that 99. Well, maybe not 99%, I like about maybe 80%.
Dude, you can play it like Dragon Age. You just zoom in and then you move with your
or Pillars of Eternity too.
Yeah. It's just like a third person now.
Yeah, it works. It works really well, man. It works really well with the controller. I think overall the consoles, we know that the S has a memory issue with them splitting up worlds, which, by the way, every game that splits up worlds has issues. Gotham Knights had issues with FPS, so they dropped it to 30. So it's like we know that those games have issues. I personally don't think it's doing anything that's that stunning. And I will also say all of these developers who are putting out all of these touchy-feely tweets about don't expect Baldur's Gate level of blah, blah, blah to be in every game. This is not being rude to Baldur's Gate, but it's not the technical achievement in Baldur's Gate at all. It's that they got things working together, and any dev has the possibility of that. What I saw is nothing that made me go, "Oh, I get it."
I think it's just time and resources type of thing,
and skill. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody wants to talk about it, but like some musicians will do music for years, and somebody will finally tell them, "You're not going to be a maestro." It's not you're not a free thinking. You're not as free thinking. Maybe you have to write your stuff down. Maybe this person is able to do it just freehand. You're not that. Some developers don't have the skill to do it, but I think some do. What I saw, guys, what's Celesta? Is that the other D&D game?
Celeste?
No, it's like Celeste.
Celestia.
Yeah. But then you got that, and you also have the other one, the Pathfinder one. And I got to tell you, other than the 3D constant discussions, which those are 3D models anyway in those games. They just don't zoom in. I wasn't like, oh, this can't be done. It was more like
for me, it was more like, oh, now, for me, it was like, oh, now actual cutscenes are in a CRPG. That's it. Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, how could they have done it? Yeah, because usually CRPGs, I guess, don't have or don't.
They don't
put too much
like
money.
That. Yeah,
but they don't have high enough budgets for.
Or the bugs.
Usually CRPG is niche as fuck, right?
Yeah, or the bugs. So you talked about the T-pose. When you have a dead character and you're talking to him, that character in the engine is dead. So you have to figure out, do you have a state that's like 0.5? 1 is life, 0 is T-pose, 0.5 is, what do? They hang like sort of like they're held up by spirits. Yeah. So that kind of stuff, a lot of devs look at it and are like, that's a next step. Maybe we don't want to hit, but now that we've seen Baldur's Gate, maybe you do. Like, because I don't have any issue with Pathfinder's writing or the other one, the Celestia or whatever. That one's writing is pretty good too. So it's like, what would we be seeing if those were, if those were at this level? I personally,
even Pillars, which was a Kickstarter, had a ton of choice and reactivity, a lot of choice.
Yeah. More than Baldur's Gate did, but I think there was more choice.
More than old. More than the original Baldur's Gate. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Let's see. Did you get your gold award from YouTube? Listen to this, man. It took me over a year to get the silver. It took me 2 days to get the gold one.
Damn.
Yeah. Coming up, all aces there. I have no clue what's going on. I'm just expecting the other shoe to fall and we'll get kicked off YouTube. Like, I legitimately have a plan for if we get kicked off YouTube, because you just can't trust anything that goes on with any of the streaming services. It looks like a lot of people here have been playing Baldur's Gate and not a lot of bugs. I'm not seeing a lot of nice tan, Absy. Lucitan says. Lucitan's got a thing for you. I think he brings it up every podcast.
Yeah, he said nice tan last time as well.
I think so. I think he's got a little... Jagger says, are you going to get review code for Starfield? I mean...
They hate him now.
No,
they made a grave mistake.
I made a mistake. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I will, and I'm okay with that. Like, it's just the thing.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely right about the podcast. Sharing it's so hard to sell someone on a new podcast. Yeah, it's, dude, I have podcasts that are so good that I listen to, and I'll get so excited. And your excitement's, excitement can be contagious, but contagion, if the person can't add any more to their current slate, it's like, I bet you're right. I bet you're not lying. It probably is great, but I don't have any more time. Like, it's 4 hours is 4 hours is 4 hours, right? It's almost like buying 2 games at the same time. You can't play them both at the same time. So
true. Yeah.
I did a little post. I want to read some of the responses. So I did a post in the Twitter about what games people are getting, and I think this is quite illuminating. I did 2 of these, but we're going to cover the first one. I said, what is the next big game that you think you're going to get? And Starfield, majority, like, obviously, I think everybody expected that. Spider-Man next, but Armored Core was close, and Alan Wake was low, which disturbs me.
Yeah. Wait, when is Alan Wake releasing?
October.
Oh, that's why, because it wouldn't be their next one.
No. Sorry, I said, are one of these your next big game purchase? So you could say that. I don't think it was. I think their next big game purchase is, I mean, you could say that it was written like that, but most people I saw were not getting Alan Wake. They talked about it in their responses. So that is true. I'll make sure to somehow clarify that next time. But I just see Alan Wake really low, and we saw it with 1. It didn't sell well. Remaster didn't sell well. Remaster still hasn't made money, from what I understand. So, I mean, it could be an Outriders thing where it's just Square lying to somebody.
Also has massive competition.
Yeah. You mean in October, or do you mean as a game?
Well, in that list, and when is
because Alone in the Dark is also October. It's like 5 days away, I think.
Spider-Man. When is Spider-Man?
October.
That too? Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, the year is packed. Dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. Is there anything in November and December?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to those in a second too, because I did another. Okay. I did another one. But and looking in here, Armored Core did pretty well. The thing about Armored Core is there's just a lot of. I can't tell how high the actual desire is, but there's a lot of Armored Core fans that are happy to see a sequel. What surprised me is the Spider-Man stuff. I'm hearing a lot of down talk about it, and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I don't see it. Like, I think they know what they're doing. Like, if they drop the ball on Spider-Man, there's a larger issue.
I think it's like a premature win. It's like God of War, right? Where it's like, oh, this is.
It is, but it seems like a premature loss now. I'm just seeing a lot of negativity towards Spider-Man 2. And it's not just the graphics, because I personally think Spider-Man 1 was so good looking that it's hard to like
upgrade that much.
Yeah, unless you change technologies. But yeah, I was just surprised by it. Then the other one, by the way, I do have to give a shout out to Beebles, who guessed my little hint about Quake being released. I did a tweet on the 31st, because I don't know if you guys saw.
With a Q?
Yeah. No, it's spelled out Quake. It was talking about Skyrim, and I said, quite surprised to see Oblivion trending. Unusual title for a remake, and that was not the remake I expected to see discussed. Killing more mobs in Oblivion will be fun. Everyone can join in. And I was like, nobody's going to guess that. I'll just be able to later say, hey, here was my Quake. And fucking, in the Discord, somebody's like, in the last tweet about remakes, your sentence spells the word Quake. I see you. I was like,
because you did that before
I don't remember doing it. Maybe I did, but I was just like, damn, that guy's looking. But looking at the next question I did, are you getting one of these big games as a side piece title? The choices were Alone in the Dark, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Lords of the Fallen, Immortals of Avium. Don't look. What do you guys think is the highest?
Can you repeat it?
Alone in the Dark, Assassin's Creed, Lords of the Fallen, and Immortals of Avium. What do you think's the highest?
What's the first one again?
Alone in the Dark.
God damn it, Amzi. Dude.
Well, it is hard to remember a list. So Alone in the Dark, Assassin's Creed, Lords of the Fallen.
Assassin's Creed is probably the highest.
Okay, Johnny.
Or Lords of the Fallen.
I'd say maybe Lords of the Fallen.
It's close.
Maybe.
Assassin's Creed did win.
Okay.
Not by the landslide I expected. It was 45%, with 34 being Lords of the Fallen. Alone in the Dark, which I'm so excited to see it score this high. It got almost 14%. Immortals is a fucking 5.7.
Whew. Wow. Yikes.
Yeah. Immortals delay may have hurt it more than if it had stuck in that time frame and maybe had whatever issues it had. We'll have to see. But there's so many games. By the way, all those games have. I didn't even add another group of 5 games. Those 4 games and the other 5 in the other tweet. That's 9 games. And I didn't get to include Forza in one, which is also going to sell like hotcakes just because it's Forza. It's ridiculous, man. It's so packed with games. Like, I don't even know how people are going to have time to play a 10th of them. Especially with some of those probably going to be, I would assume, well, Mirage is 40, right? 30 to 40 hours. I wonder what Lords of the Fallen will be. I think they said 30. So that's 60 hours of gaming. Like, I just don't know if people have time for it. And I don't know how long Immortals is. But yeah, I didn't even get to put Forza in the other one. I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. Is there any other games on there that are coming up that I've missed?
No, I think my next one, I'm looking forward to Armored Core, Starfield. Those are like my top 2.
Armored Core and Starfield?
I think for me, Spider-Man 2, Starfield.
Spider-Man 2, Starfield? Yeah, I would say for me, it's Alan Wake and Starfield. Spider-Man 2 is a get for sure. Like, it's an odd, I'm going to get it no matter, like, to review it, but I would play it no matter what, because I did like the first 2. Did both of you guys do Miles?
Yeah.
No. I will do it before 2 comes out. I have it.
Gotcha. What did you think of Miles, Johnny? Do you remember?
I thought it was a bit too short for a full price game. Okay. I think it was full price. It could be wrong. But
40, I think, or $60, yeah.
I think it was initially full price. But I loved it. I liked what they did with the powers. I think it's now actually a bit hard to go back to the basic Spider-Man in a way. Yeah, because I like the powers a lot from Miles.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way they're getting around it now is they're saying, oh, there's Venom. So now, you have Venom powers, right? So that balances the field between Peter and Miles.
Yeah. Yeah, and a big change up in 2 with that too. Go ahead.
My little brother loved it though. He beat it like 5-6 times.
Damn.
Miles.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Miles controls are Miles powers are awesome. I mean, they are really it's really cool.
Yeah.
And
I tried to, while he was playing, I took the controller a little bit and fucked around and had some really cool shit. Like, you can bring up enemies with you up in the air and then slam them down on the ground and stuff.
Yeah, they got some cool stuff for Miles. Super chat, love the game 97, $10 super chat. Thank you for the super chats. They help the channel. Finally made it to the damn stream. And I listen every week on Spotify, and I must ask, do you think that we will see too realistic of gore in the next generation?
Well, you got that camera game. What was it called? Unrecord game.
Yeah, that looks real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because remember, everybody thought that was fake.
That striked up a conversation between people about ethical, like if playing it is ethical and shit like that, or if it needs to be under heavy scrutiny or something because it looks so real.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a conversation that, like, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just a conversation journalists do to make bait.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about that.
Because all I ever see in our conversations in, like, forums that I run, Reddit, and here is that people are like, oh, that looks real. That's amazing where technology went. And then websites will be like, should we all discuss? Should we sit down and have a round table? And you're like, you still know it's a game, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I played a lot of violent games when I was a kid, and it didn't affect me. And I don't see what I do see is my reaction might be different, which I'm okay with. That doesn't mean there needs to be a moral discussion. But when I went first person in GTA 5 the first time, and I knocked somebody out, I remember going, "Ooh, that hit different than the third person detached view." So yeah, it definitely makes
it's the same thing that happens in the movies. Like Tarantino gets asked all the time, where it's like, "Oh, you're too violent. Do you think kids watching it are gonna grow up and try these things? Do they have a desire to do it?" It's like you always get that in gaming, movies, a lot of shit.
Some of it's, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think maybe not some of it. I think a lot of it's parenting too. Parents need to have discussions. My parents had discussions about what was real and what wasn't.
Yeah, and I just there's a lot of things in gaming and everywhere in the marketplace where people bring up I find the most boring argument to bring up is, oh, what about the children? There's always going to be that same argument about anything you release. It's like, oh, what about the children? It's like, fuck, man, I'm so sick of this argument being brought up over and over, whether it's gambling, whether it's loot boxes, whether it's movies or fucking GTA, you know what I mean? And there's always going to be one person saying, oh, what about the children?
Yeah.
And we already know what about the children. It's their parents' responsibility because they're not conscious enough to lead their own life.
I had somebody who was all over micros one time, which, by the way, you can be all over them, but for a really weird reason, which was it is possible for somebody to steal the credit card and buy micros. And I was like, listen, if a kid's stealing a credit card, the best thing a child can buy is microtransactions. Because I'm going to tell you, if I was up enough to steal my parents' credit card, I'd be buying some nefarious shit, and it wouldn't be microtransactions. Like, it requires a second thought, but nobody wants to do that. They just want to say point, and pretend like the argument's over.
And with guns outside, there's like fucking drugs. There's everything you possibly think of that you can say. What about the children?
So if a kid buys a new cape, I would consider myself insanely lucky as a parent. Like insanely lucky if they bought a cape versus some smack off the side of the road. It's a different conversation. We're going to talk about something that's starting to insanely bother me here in a second. And maybe it's just me. Johnny, do you have anything to say about realism in games?
No, not really. I think I'm all for it. I think there is a balance of what you show, and the more realistic something is, the less you're able to detach from what you're looking at. For example, Borderlands, I think, works so well because the cel-shaded cartoony aspect makes you detach from the just
it's not like you get
violence,
immersed in Borderlands.
Yeah, exactly.
Into it.
So if you were playing a game where you were a serial killer and you're running around murdering people and it was like ultra realistic, I could see that being very disturbing for people. So,
and I agree with you. I think the disturbing part is good in some games and not good in others. And it's okay if you know what you're buying into. Resident Evil's going to show bowels. Hatred's going to show, this crazy violence. It's like then the consumer can say, man, I don't want that in my game. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Callisto Protocol got very in your face with a lot of violence.
True.
I mean, that was the major selling point. And I would say the big problem isn't the violence, it's selling it as the only part of the game that matters. Like that, and that was Callisto's
some
problem.
Violence behind microtransactions.
Or just being like, this is our thing, and you're like, well, what about the gameplay itself? Like, do I want to see the next bit of violence? You're going to have to make sure your gameplay in between makes sense. But again, people just don't. It's like the conversations have become more tight, so people can drop the mic saying something that sounds like it matters, but then when you listen, you're like, dude, that legitimately doesn't make sense, like as a conversation piece.
Yeah,
so really sad. I wonder what they're going to give Peter after Venom. Miles has a teleport. That's hard to beat. Yeah, the big thing, I think, for a lot of us, interest for Spider-Man comes into the mixing of those two and who's going to get what, because we know Spider-Man's, got his Venom shit.
Spider-Man is Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah. Justin Watkins, $10 super chat. Again, thank you very much, man. Those are super helpful. In the violence of video games / movies, I personally believe that 99% of people can tell the difference between real world violence and entertainment, but it's an easy target. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
If I see a violent video on Reddit, it's completely different than any single piece of media I've seen about violence.
Carlos says, I'll continue this on Spotify. It's 2 a.m. here. Congratulations, Carrick, for the 1 million. Thank you very much, man. Not only 1 million, but I think we've grown by like 60,000 just in the last month.
Nice.
Thanks to you-know-who helped me. He's watching. I saw his name pop
Asmon
up.
Gold?
No, somebody helped me with identifying some just little changes to the videos I needed to do. And he's been, like, this guy, I mean, he doesn't even have a YouTube channel or anything. He was like, hey, I bet you can get more subscribers if you slightly change what you say here and here. And I was like, oh, those sound pretty legit. And I did, and it fucking exploded. Manhunt was crazy violent. Yeah, Manhunt was, and it's years ago, right? Like, Manhunt was years ago, and it's not
because if you were to do that now with like really good graphics, that could get pretty...
Yeah, that could get pretty tasty when it comes... Yeah. So looking at all this and the discussion of this kind of stuff, here's what I have to say about this. And Johnny, correct me. Did we talk about game length and media driving the discussion in the last podcast?
Yeah, we touched on it.
Okay.
We touched on it.
So we'll touch on it again, but get Absy's part. So my complaint is, and it was brought up completely when I saw the Star Wars Outlaws interview, where some outlet was interviewing him and was like demanding data about how long the game was. And the Outlaws developers were pretty clear on what they said. I don't know if you've seen this, Absy, but they were pretty clear on their answer and stuff. But there were two things that shocked me about this. One, it's Star Wars. So it's a weird game to worry about length when you have alien worlds and planets. Of all the games you should worry about, like that kind of stuff, it would be an Assassin's Creed. It would be those kind of things. So the idea that we don't want to do more in those games is a little bothersome to me. But I'm going to ignore that. What did bother me, though, is that there's a drive from the media, not media, just media, anybody who covers games. There's a drive from us that amplifies voices to make it sound like things are a bigger deal. So to give you an example, Valhalla, the most bloated of the Assassin's Creed games, sold billions of dollars, largest by a tremendous amount. And yet I'm seeing every day I go into Twitter, I'm seeing journalists be like, man, I can't wait till this game is smaller. Now, my personal opinion is a lot of reviewers want it smaller so they can review it. That's just the honest truth. I had that discussion where somebody's like, I wish this was shorter so I could cover it. And I'm like, we're now getting to a weird situation where you want the world to, like making a movie for Cisco and Ebert. At some point, what are you making the movie for? Is it the consumers or the critics? And one's a game and one is a production. And I don't want games to be a production where the people who have the loudest voice, the YouTubers, I would never want a developer to hear my reviews and go, Carrick seems to have an issue with games that are this long. I'm going to make a game that's like 5 hours shorter. That would be devastating to me to know that. Instead, I would rather make the game the way they did and have it be fun all the way through and have it be like fixed all the way through. So when it comes to game length, I know we've talked about it and I've heard you say both, but
this is where I sit on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think a lot of people right now are very results oriented. I think they have this thing about needing to complete something, needing to complete 100% something. So if you are going into that with that mentality, it's not fair for you, I think, to demand less content for other people that may want to play it for longer. Now, here's the thing. I think Valhalla was way too bloated for me. But guess what? After 70 hours, I just quit it. I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of things in the game, and then I just quit because, it's a game and I had fun with it. I don't think the reason I play games isn't just to finish them. That's weird. You know what I mean? I don't go into this game where it's like, I just want to see that one result. I care about the time between starting and finishing. So I think for people who don't want to play those huge games to completion, then just either quit early or don't fucking do every single thing. Right. There are optional things for a reason. And for people who do want more content, they get more content. I don't think anybody should demand less content for the majority.
And wouldn't we say that you just look at the game and you're like, we all agree that Valhalla was bloated because the side bits of content weren't as cultivated as they should have been. But if that game offered 120 hours of cultivated, excellent content, guess what you'd have right now? Baldur's Gate. And that's what pisses me off, because the same motherfuckers who were in there bitching on Twitter about game length are now going, I played 80 hours of Baldur's Gate. And I'm like, you just tweeted yesterday that you had an issue. So clarify your issue. Don't just be like, we need shorter games. Be like, no, if the game's going to be big, cultivate the game, make sure that those locations are fun, whatever. But don't let some fucking influencer like me, excuse my language, but I'll have to beep that out, but some like influencer or reviewer or coverage person, don't let them change your game. And we talked about this when one of the YouTubers became a game developer, and the game company was like, we want to, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, this influencer is going to help us make a game. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, not that that's impossible, but please make sure that you understand that you're not making a game just to fit that YouTuber's demographic, because no matter how big a YouTuber is, that demographic, even at 10% of sales, would be insanely high. And you're going to get a game that will probably appeal to an even lesser amount. And then what if it's bad even more? You have a weird public backlash. I just don't like this. I don't like people making stuff just for the reaction. But again, I don't do reaction videos, which, so that does sort of negate, because that's not my bailiwick. So maybe if it was,
becomes
I would
a
be more into
talking point, doesn't it? Like the microtransactions, whether it has it or it doesn't, that's a video. Like someone is now making a video about that fact. And now with the length, it's like, oh, yet another game over 60 hours or, whatever it may be. When, we talked about it, that's a one-dimensional analysis.
Yeah.
And in reality,
it is quite literally just that one little point.
Yeah, and nobody in the world experiences games or experiences in general, anything,
the same
in one dimension. It's a holistic thing. That's why you and other people, you talk about fun factor or whatever terms people use, which is a holistic view of what your experience was. What was it like to play the game, right? And beat the game. So,
well, let me explain it also this way, because I'm sure somebody's going to complain, but I think this might come close to negating a ton of this. Witcher 3. Witcher 3 had pretty cultivated everything. And it had 2 DLCs that were massive, unbelievably massive. If Odyssey or Origins was actually small. I looked up the average time to complete, and I never believe that stuff, but I always go 20 down, like I'm like hours wise. If you look at Odyssey and Valhalla, they were 2-3 times as long from Origins of all things. But when I looked at it, I was like, when people jump into these games, maybe they are looking to just complete it, but it stuns me that they would, that they can't make the choice for themselves to just not get it too. There's something about it where it's like, oh, I love Incredible Hulk. There's going to be an Incredible Hulk game. They said it was 80 hours. I'm not getting it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But what if it's good all the way through like Witcher 3 was? And I will say Witcher 3 felt a little bloated to me at times.
Well, even in Witcher 3, even though it has a lot of different quests and a lot of different stories and a lot of cultivated content, like you said, there's a lot of question marks and things, repetitive things, just like any open world game.
There is a ton.
Yeah, even Elden Ring, there's a lot of repetitiveness.
Ghost of Tsushima, one of my favorite games, still has a bunch of bloat, even if it's just switching stances and having to do
difference, I think, like let's say between Elden Ring and, obviously Elden Ring, I think there's a lot of things they do, but I'm saying the major difference of why people don't mind those repetitive content in Elden Ring, I think, is because they don't present it to you like a checklist or like a, you want to see the icon that like disappears because you completed it. And I think whenever they see like in Skyrim, when you go around and look for quests and stuff, it's just by talking to NPCs. There's no like big exclamation mark over characters, right? And I feel like when you see that exclamation mark, instantly in your head, you're like, oh, that's like, oh, now there's like 7 exclamation marks. It's like, oh my God, I have to do all of them, but they're optional. Like,
dude,
if
this
it
is why I'm telling people,
like Skyrim, you might miss them.
Yeah, you might. And turn on dynamic HUD, man. I'm telling everybody, if you get a chance, turn the HUD off for a Far Cry game. Learn the Far Cry game a little bit, understand what the expectations might be, and start turning HUD elements off. It's so good.
Yeah, it's the biggest reason why I enjoyed Primal way more than if you had the HUD on, because it became like a caveman simulator.
Yeah. And you didn't really know what was
a checklist
over the ledge.
Exactly. Made things more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I just find it we're all talking in hindsight after these games, which I think is how we should talk about them. And what happens is there's a lot of people who pretend to have ESP, and they're like, this game is for sure going to be bad because it's this many hours. It's like, why don't we play the game and then state? Because if we're doing it prior, there's a lot of pressure on developers, and at some point, and by the way, publishers, both, whether you think every publisher is a fucking Machiavellian villain, sitting on a ledge in their volcano, just like I will. Regardless, there's
and
developers
completely
like
dumb,
that too.
By the way,
and completely dumb. And they're not. And I just think afterwards we should talk about it, which we just did. Welzy1, $20 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Glad to watch this show. Still haven't finished AC Odyssey. It is a great game. It is, but it is long. Odyssey is a monster, man.
It is a monster, but you can probably beat it in way shorter time if you just didn't do the optional stuff. So there's another thing. You choose to do them as long as it's like your choice and not
grind. Yeah. Which, by the way, Atlas Fallen had some grind. Was not expecting that. Yeah. I talked about this in the review. I got to the mid, about 3/4. I would say a good guess would be 3/4 of the way through, and I was like, why does it feel like I'm getting smoked? A lot. Ooh, I lost focus. Why does it feel like I'm getting my ass kicked? And I realized it was because the enemies I had engaged, they were just a little bit higher level than I should have been taken on. And I sort of had to grind for abilities and stuff that I didn't necessarily love doing. It didn't like cause me to be mad at it, but I brought it up in the review because it's something that you can definitely poke a stick at a little bit for a conversation. Origins is still the best of the AC RPG trilogy.
Nope. Odyssey is.
Yeah, I would say I get why people think Odyssey Origins, but Odyssey's, dude, Odyssey's missing some stuff that is.
I love the choices
in
Odyssey, man.
I do too.
Such good choices. Like, actually, I was like taken aback by how good a lot of those choices were. They took like the Witcher approach.
Yeah, I think Valhalla could have been better if it had been curbed a little bit and those choices had mattered more.
I just hated the treasure shit, man. That's the thing that irked me the most. Fuck that shit. Fucking try to open the door to get to the treasure.
And the fact that I never felt like a Viking. We talk about this all the time, but I just have to bring it up one more time. There's one button you press on the controller that you can just continue to hack. And I'm like, but it didn't even look like a Viking. Like if you think of Vikings,
it was way
movies,
too floaty.
Yes,
like,
it was
way
like
too acrobatic.
And I'm like, no, dude, this needs to be like from downtown, like a baseball player at the end of a massive hit.
That axe should be like the wrath of God descending upon your enemies.
Like, I want to be a Northman. I want it to look like, oh my God, if I get hit by that.
Like, kind of.
Yeah, like God of War. No, you're absolutely right. And Elden Ring, I actually felt there were times where you got big weapons. They do that weight distribution, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the jump attacks, right?
The big guts sword, dude. And you just like,
dude.
You have those like moves where you go like.
By the way, that's replicated in Baldur's Gate. I thought they did a good job too. When you get a big weapon and you like do lacerate. And lacerate's one of the specials. And when you do that or when you charge towards somebody, I'm like, dude, that's a beefy charge. Like, dude, get out of the way.
What's so surprisingly satisfying to me, and it was satisfying in Divinity, but here even more so, is just shooting people with arrows. Just that. Yeah. Just feels great.
And dude, I don't know about you. I was a crossbow freak in that game. I don't know why I don't like crossbows, but that game, I got like a heavy specialized crossbow that like did 4 points of acid. It wasn't a ton, but it was awesome. And then I got a ring that was like, even if you miss, you do, it's called like follow through or something, but it was like, it added a point of damage, even if you miss, just because like your swing is so big. And I was like, dude, that's a legit, like that's awesome. Cause you always felt like you may get away, but you're still going to get a little scratched up.
I love the way the gear system works in Baldur's Gate. Cause you can use stuff you found in the first region way later.
Absolutely. It's not a gear game as much.
It's not a gear game. There's very rare and stuff, but it's all about the situational like bonuses and stuff you get.
And I think up front I didn't get a lot of gear. I bought stuff. I bought almost everything my characters.
In the beginning there was just mostly I see vendors have the good shit.
I know, and you just go in, sell a couple things and move on. Foul Play, $10 super chat. Thank you very much. He says, I 100% achievemented Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. It was a fun challenge for me to do. Nothing wrong with that. And what's cool is a fun challenge for you to do is different than what we're talking about, which is where people like force it and then bitch, and the force was just having to get the 100%. And it's like, I'll put a book down. Johnny and I talk about that. We talked about it in the last podcast. I'll put a book down. If I'm like 40 pages in, I'll give a TV show 2 tries. I'll give a book 2 tries. But at some point, is this a waste of my time when, for example, I just listed 9 Star games coming out? Is that a way? Should it not be a point where you yourself say, I screwed up, and I'll remember next time, but I screwed up. You know, I should have waited or seen, you know, what people said as they played it. But everybody wants to get in day one, which I understand as well, because you want to be part of the conversation. But yeah, it's
the FOMO, isn't it? Nowadays, it's like,
dude, the world.
You hear
is
people
on FOMO.
talking about the game, you want to jump in.
Yeah,
that's me with Remnant 2. I was just getting FOMO the whole time.
I got FOMO while I owned the game.
Oh, because of all the secrets?
Because people were talking about it in Discord, and I was reviewing another game, and I was mock reviewing another one, and I was like, "Oh my god, I really want to play Remnant." Because Johnny and I played after.
Because you're a reviewer, you would play before everyone is playing.
It sucks. There is nothing that sucks more than that. When I hear you guys talking about Baldur's Gate, and I luckily I'm still playing it, so that helps. But a lot of games, I'm done, and I'm on to the next thing, or I'm resting, and I'll see you guys talking, and I'll be like, "Oh fuck. Should I just..." But Remnant, I played a bunch of. I played a bunch after with Josh. Johnny and I believe played 2 or 3 times after, or one long time. I can't remember. But it's that good as just a sit down.
Dude, I keep hearing like, "Oh, we found this class, we found this," and I'm like, "God damn, I wanna."
There's some hidden shit in that. There's some crazy.
I love that.
I don't know if you were in the last podcast where we were talking about like, we were, where there's like you break some slime and let the water fill up for 90 minutes. And just like, who would have thought of that? Yeah, it's great.
And in fact, Carrick, when we played, I think we missed a boss. When we did, without revealing, but we did the Bloodborne level together. And in the end, we got to this like other world type thing. And just ahead of that, there was a boss that I found later, like the Night Weaver lady. And I think
wouldn't it change depending on the campaign?
It was our campaign. Procedural? It was he played a little bit of his, I played a little bit of mine, but it was it was still the generic.
That's
same.
Really cool, man.
Yeah, but also really cool. It doesn't have to be. There is that too, where it rolls its own bosses. Because I got a boss that I never got again when I was reviewing it. It was terrible. One single boss was really bad. Really bad.
Okay.
Singularly bad in that game. And it's a plant/crab thing that floats up, shoots the ground to cause the ground to shake and causes it to fall out from under you. And it's a third-person game, which already means controlling is weird. And you have to look up and then look down to see where the acid is and if there's ground there. It was terrible. And then all the other bosses were awesome. So it's just like, all right, they had that one. And by the way, I'm sure other people got it, but I think that boss might be negligible. Like a very small percent of getting them, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about that boss. And even if they liked it, I don't hear it. Wannabe Dev, RON 25 super chat. I can't remember what that is. Russian. No. What's RON? I don't know what kind of monetary value is RON. Does anybody know? RON. Sounds like something. Let me
search
Russian.
it up.
Reg has been lost to game development. Yes, he has. Yeah. Silver wasn't on either. I looked for Silver, but he wasn't there.
It's Romania, by the way.
Romania. I didn't know Wannabe Dev was in Romania. Beast of Darkness says, Carrick, are you looking forward to MK1?
Meh.
The leak happened yesterday that made it look 10 times better, though, which is their version of Dimensions that Injustice had. Yeah, it's called Invasions. And
they have content?
Yeah, right? That's the thing I was worried about, was that it wasn't going to have any. But a leak from somebody in a third world country, they got data early, or an advertisement, and it talked about invasions, where something happens where like other players' characters come in maybe, or something. That made me much more excited, because to be brutally honest, it looks like a Mortal Kombat game. It didn't.
Dude, the whole reason I played a lot of Mortal Kombat games in the PS2 and Xbox original era was because of those types of content.
Yeah, right. Armageddon had shit. Open world where you cook the dog.
And they all had like different themes, and in one game they can use weapons and stuff, and then you'd get side games like Shaolin monks and stuff. The world just felt more full. And now it just feels like, you're choosing characters, there's maybe a story, and it's just like online games or versus bots, and it's like everyone wants to be esports ready and all that shit.
And we should all remember, Mortal Kombat has had major hits and pretty big misses. One of the big misses was the one with the crypt, where they were telling everybody we wouldn't have like casino coin betting, and in the crypt was a casino coin better. Like, I remember going, I'm looking at the paperwork and then looking at the thing in the game, and I'm like, but that's real money. What are these guys talking about? But then they had one or two that have been great. Deception's great. Armageddon, back in the day when they would do a mini car racer and a 2D fucking like puzzle fighter.
Test
and
your
then,
might and that stuff.
Yes. Oh, dude. I remember being like, these guys put 3 games in there. And by the way, if even one of the side games sucks and one is okay or good, that's a ton more content that you they had Mario Racer in one of them, like Mortal Kart Racer in one of them.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Let's see. These guys are talking about Celeste. It's so good. I was so bad. People are talking about Remnant. Origins still felt like it was an AC game at heart, plus Egypt. Yeah, Origins was well done, man. Origins was awesome. What's your favorite of all these 3? Of the 3 new ones? Odyssey. Okay. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, it's the most fun. Like the actual gameplay.
Good point, right? The
was
gameplay.
the most fun.
And the best DLC I've ever played in a game. Atlantis.
You know, I never touched the Ubisoft DLC.
Dude.
I've never played an Ubisoft DLC in my life.
Well, Far Cry, you ain't missing shit. Their DLC sucks balls.
Yeah, I saw the Vietnam one and the other one.
But Syndicate had Jack the Ripper, which is a hit and miss for some people. I still think it's incredible. But the Atlantis DLC for Odyssey is mind-blowing. Like, and by the way, Ragnarok for Valhalla is great. The roguelike. So it's a roguelike game based in like Ragnarok as your main character. And that DLC, I don't even think was super cheap, super expensive. I think it was like 20 maybe. Let's see what Mortal Kombat Deception, where Silver, like I was saying, Silver wasn't on Discord when I looked to give invites, so I don't know where he was. Silver's got a lot of oh no, wait, what am I thinking? Silver's been posting a shit ton of pictures traveling. He's traveling around the nation. I don't think I talked to him about that.
Borge or something?
Yeah, he posted a bunch of pictures yesterday, so I would assume maybe that's why he wasn't on today. I usually now, because I'm not paying these guys at the moment, is I just sort of invite who's available, because it feels weird to be like, hey man, waste 4 of your hours, come talk about Bigfoot. I got a lot of feedback on the Bigfoot discussion. That was funny, man. A lot of people posted and were like, dude, I feel you, which I felt good, because I was like,
about your Bigfoot story
yeah. And it was just like, I was sitting there going like, oh God, because Johnny happened to ask. And so we talked about it and I was like, oh, here we go. I'm going to get, shorts. ACG can't be trusted for reviews because blah, blah, blah. Believes in Bigfoot. It's like, I even said, I don't know what I saw. Yeah, he's psychotic. Yeah. Like, people should be questioning that. I'm of course psychotic. Watch my Baldur's Gate 3 gameplay, where I am much more evil as a normal character than the Dark Urge character could ever be. Like, that was the thing. I was doing Dark Urge and I was like, this guy's a wuss compared to the way I played. Like, but I get it. People, because people are forced in the Dark Urge.
I'm guessing you didn't save the druids, did you?
Bro, I did. Oh no. You missed this conversation. That's my favorite battle, so I'm not going to spoil anything. Yes. The druids were fighting the other guys, so I joined in. And I was like, let's take out the druids, man. I'm on your team. And then I waited until everybody was comfortable, and I slaughtered everybody left and just had the entire town to myself. It was glorious. Wow. It was glorious. I was just like, bloodlettas. It was so good.
Carnage.
Yeah. Oh, man. It felt so good. And I was. They're all, thank you for healing us. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then right when that ended, I was like, click, 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 attack. And we even set up people to be like behind people for the quick attacks. Good times.
Nice.
What else do we got going on besides that before we move on to I sort of want to talk about complexity. This is connected to Baldur's Gate and Odyssey. I saw some people saying that they felt Baldur's Gate was a little too complex. Now, 5th E edition is not complex, but there's a lot you can do. Did you guys feel that you were confused by anything in Baldur's Gate, or maybe something was OP? I think we've talked about Shove. But was there anything?
Not like Wrath of the Chosen to me was like, especially in character creation, I was like, oh my God, what am I looking at? A little bit at the start, but in this one it was, well, I play a lot of CRPGs, but this one was very, very smooth sailing. As long as you know what a 1d8 is, or a 1d10, 1d12, or 2d6 or whatever. So
Abzi, did you have a problem like Johnny and I talked about this? The HUD is messy. I find Baldur's Gate 3's worst part is its HUD. Yeah. And those red bars, I showed it to somebody. They had played 26 hours without knowing they had a bunch extra moves. Because if you slide the bar over, there's all their other moves. And they were fine.
They probably didn't increase the rows too.
They didn't. They had 3 rows, and if they had done 4, they would have seen a whole other 3 and 3 bar. And they were completely like, I can do these other moves. I didn't even know that. So
they organize it in a very dumb way by default. So you have to do some organization of your hotbars. But what I love so much is that in inventory systems or when you're looting, you can shift click and control click just like you would in a Windows folder system to select multiple things. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't know that. So there we go. I did not know you can shift click. So you're talking about you can just grab a bunch of shit in your inventory by
you click on something and hold shift and click on another thing. And
that would have made some double clicking easier.
Yeah, you can control click stuff to take them out of your shift click. Like basically everything that you would do in a folder system.
Dude, Johnny, did you know that?
Yeah, but I found out after our last podcast, by the way. I didn't know at the time when we talked. And this made a big difference because what happens is you collect a bunch of shit and you want to sell it. And sorry for cursing, but so one thing you can do is, let's say you collected a bunch of stuff and now you want to say all of that, tag it as wares, so that when you go to the merchant in the trade window, you can click one button and just sell all of that. That makes a huge deal of difference.
Or just like transfer all my scrolls to my wizard and all.
Or you can transfer everything to your camp as well. Because if you don't, maybe you're over encumbered, so you could just select all the stuff you just picked up and send it to camp.
I was right-clicking, send to wares, right-click, send to wares, right-click, send to wares, until it got so bad I stopped sending to wares and I just would sell it. I would just go into my normal and just go sell, and do that. I also think the barter versus trade was really confusing. Like, they'll be like, if you don't have any money, blah, 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 you can do barter. And it's like, but you could already just hit equal and try. Like, there was some, there was some
I
stuff.
don't get the bartering because I tried like, selling stuff or buying shit and not giving as much gold.
Right.
Just like I tested it.
$1, by the way.
Yeah, $1 less. Yeah. Nope, he did not agree. It's like, okay, so what's the point? I know you can give them stuff and that'll increase their attitude towards you, but I don't know if it's better in the long run to just keep giving them shit and then buy a big item.
There's a lot of travel too, Abzi. I don't know if I would want this guy to be awesome and have all my shit so that he's got a high opinion of me when I'm in Baldur's Gate, when I'm like 600 miles away. Like, oh, great, the guy in the Mushroom Valley cares. Like,
they had that in Divinity, and I never interacted with that system.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things in that game that could have been fixed, and I think the HUD would definitely be it. What else?
I see another complaint is if you are controlling the wrong character at the wrong time, maybe, or if your companion was closest to something, then they might trigger the cutscene dialogue sequence, and you want to do it on your own character.
Yeah.
And you can't switch them in dialogue because of how dialogue works, and I think because of the multiplayer system they have going on. That's one complaint I've seen.
I've definitely seen that. I actually got pinged. User, he's not in our Discord. He's in another one I joined, Soshman. And that was one of the first things he said was, when you were playing, did you ever have this? I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't. But like, it's legit because it's popped up for a great number of people. It's not necessarily broken, but at the same time, you're like, that. I don't know. It does seem a little odd.
Because also some people who haven't played Divinity, it's like... because in Solacea and stuff like that, you can use someone else's charisma check for you.
Right.
But they don't know that, I can do the interaction, but then someone else, I can use my high persuasion character to do that interaction instead.
Yeah. And some games don't let you. Some games do let you. Some games say the character's name in the dialogue to indicate this person. If they do that, I would like to see that character come forward and be like, well, what about this? Instead of like me pretending to talk. But yeah, man, it's great. It's awesome to see These banger titles. I saw a lot of people saying Zelda versus this for Game of the Year, and I'm like, whatever, we'll get to that when we get to it. But
I just hate those conversations.
Oh, dude,
they popped up so many times this year.
I always get so much shit for like not wanting to do Game of the Year videos because I'm like, dude, seriously? Like, there's recency bias. There's me liking a game more than a game style more. Dude, I'm not gonna ever shit on Zelda. I mean, its construction system and the stuff that happened was just
which they patented.
Which they patented. I saw that. Yeah, I saw that they patented a couple days ago. I was like, that sort of sucks. You know?
I hate patents in gaming, man.
So do I. Warner Brothers with their patenting the Nemesis system and all that stuff just makes me. Yeah, but I mean, with these kind of games, it also depends on what the person likes. If they like a racing game, Forza might be the Game of the Year. True. If they did a video, people would be like, what? And you're like, dude, I'm a racing channel, dumbass. Like, if you're wearing a NASCAR helmet when you're doing the review, there's a high chance that Forza is going to be your Game of the Year. It's just such a ugly, gross discussion when it's not like, there's got to be something about it that is almost standoffish, but then that's hard because, you know.
And I think go for it. And this year it's super highlighted because it's not just like 2 or 3 games that people are talking about that could be. It's way more than that.
You know,
and I think also most of them cater to very different people, by the way.
Very different.
Most of the big hits.
Yeah. Very different. Yeah. For sure.
Games.
For sure. I hadn't thought about that. What were we going to say, Johnny?
Well, just 2 quick things. I think this discussion sparked because Baldurs Gate overtook Tears in Metacritic. I think it hit 97. Tears is at 96. So
with only 14 reviewers, by the way. I think Tier had like 400 reviews.
Okay.
So
I haven't checked that.
But that's true because I saw that. Yeah.
I was just going to ask Johnny. So what you're saying, Johnny, is that at some point Baldur's Gate had a number of some kind, the aggregate, and then it went above Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah.
In its aggregate?
Yeah.
It went up to 98, I think, or 97 and Tears of the
97.
Kingdom.
Okay, let me explain 96. Why that doesn't it does not matter. It's Metacritic. They weigh IGN higher than other influencers. It does not matter. That's why Metacritic should fucking be burned to the ground unless they fix their shit. OpenCritic doesn't do that. Why would Metacritic? Metacritic artificially adjusts for some journalism sites. And I'm just like, why? And they've done it for years. And I don't know if they've slightly adjusted or not.
It's sitting at like 94, 95.
Instead of 97. And why would, let's say Games Radar, right? Let's say Game Rant, GameStop, let's say they give a game 100. And then IGN gives it a 90 or 80, which we've all had issues with some of IGN scores being weird. I don't care about that. I'm just saying if they have more weight, then any discussion about Metacritic to me flies out the window. If there's an adjustment to the weight and that weight that's not described, like for example, here's what they could do. Game is at 87 on Metacritic. IGN added 2 to this versus GameSpot. I would be okay with that because then I could look and go, okay, the adjustment was this. You know, it's like a favorite in a UFC where you're like, I get it. This is, this 200 point, 300 point underdog or, higher chance to win. That's fine. But they don't. Metacritic shouldn't matter. It needs to be nuked, man, or fixed. Fixed is fine too because I don't want anybody going out of business, but I hate it. It's just so weird. What else do we got for Baldur's Gate before we move to Starfield?
Oh, dude. Oh, man, you're going to hate me when I say this, dude, because
I hate you already. So, I mean, will this make it worse?
Already. Maybe.
Okay, go.
A little bit. No, it's just one of those Apsy things, Dude, I teared up at one point in the game.
Oh, my God.
Not because of anything. Listen, not because of anything emotional in the game or whatever, but because I hit a point where there was such good reactivity to my actions and a lot of attention to detail that I was like, oh my God, that's awesome.
That's so beautiful.
So I get what you're saying. It wasn't like somebody like bowed down and did a wedding proposal and you teared up. You're saying that the interactions that you did over time started to play out and you saw all of this stuff coming together and that made you tear up like, oh my God.
Yeah, because I think like Cyberpunk burned the fuck out of me with that thing. Yeah. Like attention to detail was the main thing about Cyberpunk that bothered me a lot, and I was like burnt a lot by that.
No, I get that. I get that.
Alone, so
I don't you sort of think of that in a weird way, like an inspirational poem or an inspirational speech you hear on YouTube? To me, that's inspirational when I see all this stuff mattering. So I sort of get where you're coming from, where like emotions might come out when you're like, oh my God, everything matters. It's so nice to have things matter and make it make sense and not penalize you unless you're supposed to be penalized or not reward you. And no, I get it. I didn't get that. I did get, what would the term be? I felt emotional weight when I backstabbed somebody on accident because I clicked too quick. I will just say that. I clicked too quick, and I was like, I did this thing where I reach towards the screen sometimes. So if I see a movie and like there's a weapon and a person doesn't grab it, I'll be like, grab the weapon. It's right there. I did that when I was like, oh no. Like, what did I do? And they're like, why? And I was all, I don't know. I had like a little mini conversation with the game where I was like, it's all my fault. I reacted there. And that would be because things did matter. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. Did you continue on with it, or I think
everything
you wanted to
I continue on with
Save Scum?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's talk about Save Scum first of all.
Okay.
Let me get my part out, and if you guys disagree, because I think Absy does, I can already tell by what he said. Well, maybe not cares, but we probably come at a different rate.
Okay.
Lately, I've seen a lot of people who are like, bro, how many times did you save? If you are measuring your dick on save scumming, you're already hung like a wet shrew, as I said on Twitter. No amount of jelkin is going to stretch your prick to a longer amount because you saved less. The conversation around save scumming is gross. And I mean it in a way that it's so many ways detached from the enjoyment of a game. It's like if I were to have you guys read a book and I said, I read 100 pages in one night. How many you read? 25? Then you're not a reader. If I said that out loud, you guys would try to lynch me. You'd be like, that's the dumbest thing a person has ever fucking said live on camera. And yet we see that all the time. And I've been seeing it a lot on Reddits and other places where some people said, oh, is it driven by this website? And I'm like, no, man. I saw this prior to those websites going live where people are like, bro, sweat stains down their armpits because they're obese and pretended to be in shape. And they're like, how many times did you save? What the fuck? Why is that a part of a conversation? It doesn't make any sense to me. Also, who gets to choose when you save? Do we just all say, okay, we're going to save scumming is this? What is save scumming? I had a guy last night who was in the Discord saying, I don't want to save prior to moving to another land because I don't want to save very often. I'm like, well, that's on you. I saved prior to to teleporting in any game because I'm worried it'll crash. Does that mean that I'm not a gamer? Like that's my personal belief, is that it is a terrible discussion to have, and there is no amount of dick measuring that can be achieved by a save scum discussion. You are not a better person or a more valid person if you save more or less.
Wait, no, I don't disagree with you at all.
Okay, I heard you talking about save scum a little bit prior to the podcast, and I thought you were saying.
No, I was saying I don't like if I make a choice and it ends up to be like a shitty decision that causes a lot of shit that I didn't want, I don't reload my save.
Either do I. That's what I was going to. That's what caused this conversation. Is I hit that person and I was like, "Fuck no, I'm not unsaving that." Like, but you did state. It did seem like, I don't know, the way we talked, or you just mentioned it for a second, and I noted it in my brain that it sounded like you were more towards it does matter, but you're saying it doesn't.
What matters?
Well, how many times you save, but what you're saying is you'll just make a choice, and if it's bad,
I've probably mentioned in the Discord as well. I hit F5 a lot. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
like I
said saving? Prior here, it sounded like you didn't do that a lot, but what you're saying is you have no issue doing that. Is that what you're saying?
No issue saving, or no issue saving saves?
Or well, okay, that's another thing.
Yeah.
If you save scum and never reload a save, are you save scumming?
I mostly hit, like when I hit a lot of, like when I save a lot, it's because anything can, like the game can crash or whatever, and I don't want to redo a lot of things. If people want to save scum all their checks and want to save scum like all their choices and stuff and want to see what happens, and they could play it that way. I just like to leave things for like other playthroughs, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, I think there are levels to it. So if you're trying to pickpocket a merchant and you're like spam reloading until it works, I think that's a different level. It starts to enter a territory where I think you remove some of the fun of it.
The game,
So
the game of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll give you an example of
let Johnny go real quick.
Sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I was done.
So what I try to do is I have no problem reloading. In fact, many times it will happen that I run into a combat and like the rest of my party is far away and it's a terrible starting to the fight. Yeah. And I just reload, right? Like, oh, reload. Bad. Now I know here, there's a fight here. Let's prepare. I'm totally good with that. I'm also on board with what you guys are saying, that if I make a decision like story-wise, I'm owning that, because I think that's part of the role-playing aspect. You made a decision. And even if it's bad, that's part of your journey. You kind of have to make the best of a bad situation. But yeah, there are times I don't have a problem if I, let's say I do pickpocket someone, I succeed, but then later on the merchant sees me around and he's like, "Hey, you got my stuff," right? Right. And now I have the option of either going to prison or fighting the entire town. And let's say I don't want to kill the town. I might reload there. Yeah. But again, I wouldn't do that on repeat. That's the difference, I think. I wouldn't try to abuse the game in a way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, go ahead, Abzi. What were you going to say?
Yeah, like one good example of why sometimes I do tell people, hey, maybe for your first playthrough, don't save scum too much. Sometimes I do say that, like for a game like Disco Elysium, I said that a little bit, where I was like, don't save scum, because with those games do so well. And I'll give you an example of this: is your fails or your failure to do something leads to cool things. You know what I mean? So like a good example is I got a whole town fucked because of my own mistakes. I a lot of innocent people died. I failed a couple quests because of that. There's some stuff I can't even do anymore because people died. But the story felt natural and moved in that direction, where now I can talk to my companions or the people that cared. Oh, what do you this happened, by the way, and what do you think about that? And now they're showing like different kind of emotion. Now it's a different story, and now maybe someone is captured and I have to go rescue them, and the game just played out that way, where it's like, okay, well, this is my story now, so I don't want to reload and not make the mistake anymore.
Yeah. Have you ever had a conversation with a friend and they're the type of person that while you're talking about normal stuff, they're like, have you ever jacked off in a moving car? And you're like, what the why did he ask that? We were talking about video games. That's sort of the way save scum discussions are for me. There's all these other things to talk about, so I don't have this discussion very often. I'm very adamant on my thought processes, but you can do whatever the fuck you want. I would certainly do what you do and say, well, if it reacts well to your failures, it may be fun to see what happens. But I also, man, it's judgment. I don't know any other way to say it. And I will judge some things for sure, some things incorrectly. But when I see something like that, I'm like, guys, I don't know what we're doing. Like, what are we doing? And somebody said, I guess in Kokarn's stream, people were saying, I won't watch the stream because he saves too often. And I'm like, goodbye. Like, there's no sense of loss. Now,
dude, they let you save mid-conversation let you do that.
Yeah, they let you do it. And some games will also, on hard difficulty, will say you have 10 saves per hour, or you have this. I like that, too. And that's great, too, because it means they thought of it. Kingdom Come. Oh, yeah, where you need potions, right? In Kingdom Come. Isn't that what it was? Yeah. And, I do put my foot down and people get mad about it, but I just don't care. I just think it's a weird... It reminds me of, when somebody say, oh, those guys are nerds. Back in the day when nerds weren't cool. If you're talking about save scumming, that's the way I think about that person. Where I'm like,
me too.
Wow,
that's when I call someone a nerd.
Yeah, that person is a true nerd, when they get that mad about it, like kind of stuff, when they get that verklempt about it, you're just like, come on, man. I try not to save scum on skill checks just when something goes really wrong. Or I was just dumb and didn't realize what I needed to do. Again, there's absolutely nothing
Yeah, the difference between like this game, for example, and real D&D is that you can always ask the GM for clarification. In this game, you can't really clarify stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if you guys, Johnny and I think disagreed on this, maybe even just last podcast. Yes, we did. Mass Effect. I loved that when I took a choice in Mass Effect, it wasn't exactly what Shepard was going to say. Johnny was completely the opposite because he wanted more he's like, I want to say this. Don't add some negative inflection to what I'm saying. Like it says
Don't put
this.
words in my mouth.
So there's that too, where I do play it I did like a little of that chaos. So I also get people save scumming on different games too, where it makes even more sense. Where like I can't trust what this guy's going to
say like no ... and then you end up like hitting the person you're talking to.
And you're like, whoa, that was not, I just was saying no, and inflection's different in text versus, what you, and I don't know if Mass Effect took any past actions. I don't think they did. But if they had, then it would be to me, it would be even cooler because I'd be like, was I negative or was I really forceful in the past? Okay, if I say no, I might punch them. Where another person doesn't want that chaos in their game. They're like, I'm saying no. And by the way, I'm going to tell you a game I love that had this, and it did bother me, and that's L.A. Noire. L.A. Noire, they'd be like, did this guy do it? And you're like, that guy's lying. He for sure did it. And then your boss is like, you better go out there and fix it. The Irish angry boss would be like, you were totally wrong. And I was like, what? How? Like the guy, like I caught him red-handed. And so if you misread stuff, or there's the ability to misread things, I don't have any problem with somebody.
There's one thing I love doing in Pillars of Eternity. They had like an option for your HUD where usually in dialogue they'd give you in brackets this is the good option.
Turn it off, right?
You can say this because you're a monk. You can say that.
Right.
Yeah, I turned all that off, and it was just pure chaos. I don't know what's a skill check, what's not, and it was just like this is the dialogue, and this is what you're saying, and that's
Baldurs Gate did that great too. When I had my first racial modifier because I was a half orc, and I didn't even think of that. It wasn't in my head, and if it wasn't there, I would have never noticed, but it was there. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. They're taking into like account my race, which I thought, that's exactly what I wanted. I just hadn't even thought about it. I was like, oh, I don't know if they'll do that. And the first time I saw half orc come up as a skill check, I was like, but I agree. Turning it off can be such a blast because you don't know if it's a skill check, you just being a dick, racial, what have you. You're just sort of going on if the game reacts well. And if it does, then playing that way can be really fun. Yeah, it's a good thought process. And I know, like, I'm sure people are mad and they're like, he's too mean about it. But it's like, I don't care. So
practical scenario, right? Let's say you're lock picking something.
Yeah.
And it's your last lock pick and you fail it. Do you reload?
Never. I've never, ever reloaded a lock pick. Like Skyrim, you could break lock picks.
I mean, my main character has like plus like 10 to fucking.
Right.
By the way, Johnny, that's one thing we did not.
There's inspiration.
We almost failed in this discussion by not indicating if the game allows for you to adjust for it, I will. So I will not reload, but I will raise my pick lock skill. So if I am breaking stuff, I'm like, God damn, I wanted that. I will never be like, I can have it now, because it's almost like a cheat where suddenly the game doesn't have as much investment from me. But I will, 100%, for sure, buy like lockpick +1, lockpick +2, or raise my dexterity, or have the right guy do it. Some games will be like, if this guy does it, he's going to have a +10. If you do it, you're going to have a -5 because you're fumble-fingered,
Yeah.
Interesting. God damn, I'm glad you guys brought that up because I wouldn't have brought that up. And that's a good thought. What are your thoughts on Riders Republic? I haven't played Riders. That's the snowboarding
thing, right?
All that kind of stuff.
In fact, just a last thought there on the topic. I actually would encourage people to reload fights if they got like a bad start on the fight.
Oh yeah, especially if you're by yourself.
Just experiment, because it would surprise you, and we've mentioned this a lot, how much the fight changes depending on where your guys are positioned. Do you have like a stealth start? Do you have elevation in your favor? All these types of things. Experiment with that. Reload, see, and find strategies that work.
So my strategy was to realize that could happen and change the gameplay versus reloading. So it did happen. I jumped into a battle and I was like, I'm getting my ass kicked. This guy's by himself. The other guys, I didn't look one time, and one guy had waited because he couldn't jump. And I got into a huge battle and I got smoked. But I was like, okay, I need to change my gameplay style. But whether they want to take that time or save, do whatever you want. It's totally fine. Go ahead, Abzi.
Yeah, like I agree with that as well. But for me, I don't reload. I just it's when I die when it's like, okay,
you play it out.
Yeah, like there was a section where my persuasion check failed and we entered battle and stuff, and I was like, okay, I guess this is happening now. And then, but I died, so I had to repeat the persuasion check, but then I succeeded, so I never, stuff like that happens. So yeah.
A game that's putting this on its ear, which is awesome, is Lords of the Fallen, where if you die, you don't die, you go to the underworld to do battle again. And I thought that was awesome. I can't wait.
I thought it was,
if it works.
At first I thought it was just a Sekiro thing where you relive, but no, like there's a mechanic. Well, there's like other stuff to explore in the dead
and you
world,
can kill yourself to go into the other world at any time. I was like, dude, that's really cool. If it pans out, that could be legitimate. The people I talked to who played it liked it.
Universe exploration.
Yeah, or like an Umbra, almost like the spear. And the idea that the boss might be harder, but now you know some of their attacks. Maybe in the underworld you get more. I believe you even get more of a reward or different rewards in the underworld than you would in the overworld. What if you have a weapon that works well in the overworld? I like that idea. I think that could be, cool. Depending on how Lords of the Fallen 1 wasn't great. So it's like, I don't know what to say. Like that's an odd problem. Lester says, is BG3 better than Divinity Original Sin 2? Yes.
I like it more. I like it way more. Yeah, I like because Pillars was my favorite out of all. Like Pillars was more than Divinity for
CRPG, RPG.
Now Baldur's Gate is more than overtook Pillars for me so far. So
interesting. So you're Baldur's Gate. You're Pillars? Baldur's Gate, then Divinity Original Sin 1 or 2, or that series, and then you're Pillars?
Baldur's Gate, and then Pillars. Like Baldur's Gate the most right now, and then Pillars, and then I think Wrath of the Right, and then Divinity. I think. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. You liked Wrath of the Righteous more than Divinity Original Sin. Oh, that's interesting. What about you, Johnny? Where do you put those? And anybody in chat, where do you put these games? Go ahead, Johnny.
So far, I like Baldur's more. It's kind of next level when it comes to all the voice acting, the interactions and stuff.
Battleheart's smoke show beyond all belief.
Oh, dude, that's the character I've been romancing.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like the characters have more depth. Although Divinity did well, but here it's kind of like whoa.
And you can swap them. You can get, and they all scale.
That's right.
Like you can go back to camp, and you don't have to fucking like level up each person.
That's right, and that's a huge change, right? Because Divinity, you were pretty committed to a party, and sure, you could respec. Like there were points where you could go and respec and change classes, but it was a heavy commitment. You can't just like change companions. And here, like the fact that you have this camp that's going with you wherever you go, go there. And dude, like the camp is eventful, man. Like every time you go, not every, but almost every time you go to camp and you go to sleep, there's something interesting that happens, right? It's kind of advancing this meta narrative that's outside of what's immediately happening. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think Baldur's Gate just does a better job, and it could be bouncing off tropes from D&D, where Divinity Original Sin had its own tropes, and they might not have been able to do it as well. But Baldur's Gate, I mean, there's some stuff that happens in your camp is pretty important. Also, in your camp, you can beat the shit out of each other, learn your moves, which is nice, because I would go in there and beat the hell out of somebody by figuring out what moves did what, because I didn't want to try them in battle. I thought that was awesome. Different characters in the camp are cool. The only thing I will say about the camp that I didn't like was, this sounds like such a small nitpick, but after, now I'm at 111 hours, it's really become bothersome, which is when you go to camp just to rest, and you have to go to camp, then hit the sleep, then hit the go. And it sounds so dumb, but it's like, I just want to sleep and wake up and go. And I know why they're not doing it. It's just one extra click that I don't know why, but I wake up 5 feet from my bag, and I'm like, I was just on the bag. I was just there. Why can't I just say sleep and go back? Again,
it is a bit slow. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's a dumb complaint in the scheme of things, but after 120 hours of it, and that cycle is coming, I don't know about you guys, I get a weird angst when I just want to go quick. I get almost like a just hurry. I don't want to hear somebody. And also when a character says, I want to talk to you, you get an exclamation. A lot of times I just ignore them. I'll be like, I want to get back to battle, man. Leave your talking. Talk to somebody at a different time. Man, I swallowed that.
The one thing I would have liked in camp is being able to access everyone's inventory in your camp in some way without having to, because in order to take someone out of your party, you need to talk to them. And
oh my God, yes.
Hey, would you please leave? Are you sure? Yes, I want you to leave.
Yes.
Okay. Go to someone else.
I totally agree. You're like, yes, I'm telling you to go. No arguments. Please just leave. Yeah. And they're like, are you sure? And then I accidentally hit no. And then I'm like,
oh, you got to repeat that.
Yeah. Who's your faves? No, don't answer that because there's some characters that come later. Shadowheart's there with you all the time.
Do you want me to say from Act 1? Like my favorites from Act 1?
Probably
or like from
not. We'll do it next week. Okay. Just this week, Shadowheart's there. We've talked about them, but there's some stuff that happens later on that can really adjust your entire party dynamic. So I just... Because a lot of mine do have to do with things I've done in the game world causing somebody to be like, yeah, I don't want to be with you or whatever. I remember one time I went to travel somewhere and a person's like, you're not doing my quest. Bye. And I was like, okay. Yeah. That sort of sucked though. I wasn't prepared for that. THQ just announced a new South Park game. Snow Day. Yes. Dude, South Park, so legit. South Park games, those two. Stick of Truth and...
Butthole.
Fractured.
Fractured butthole. Yeah. I love those games. I cannot wait. That'll be awesome. I didn't know that got announced. Moving on from there, let's talk about Starfield. So with Starfield, do you guys think? No, I can't ask that because that. Let me ask this a roundabout way. So, in past Skyrim and Elder Scrolls games, when you got a companion, they didn't have much going on. You could marry them, but that was 2 clicks, and you're banging, right? And there's no reaction to that. You're not, causing each other to get Skyrim herpes or anything. It's just like banging, that's it. There's no real thing. Do you guys believe that Starfield will have more character interactions and more, I guess, more telling, more reactions? Do you guys think people will be expecting it? Because I think Baldur's Gate has set people up.
I think people will be expecting it.
Right.
But for me, I don't see Bethesda games usually as the story rich that Baldur's Gate is like. It's Baldur's Gate is way more story rich.
Right.
And I think with Starfield and Skyrim and stuff, it's more about the sandbox and kind of gameplay options rich or simulations and just like shit you can find yourself in and not taking itself too seriously and shit you can do rather than this character is going to be very developed. I can't think of a character that's like super developed and that's the game.
Yeah, that's true. Like even now that I think about it, I guess it might have even it's not I don't want to talk about some stuff, not that I know anything, but I don't even want to put it in people's heads. But I've wondered about that myself. Like are they going to embrace a sandbox where? Because the reason why I asked this, Johnny first, go ahead and answer, and then I'll say why I asked this. What do you think? Do you expect more?
So I think they're very good at giving you the feeling that there's a lot going on with interactions, when in reality, like it's not that much when you break it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
We talk about like lying to the player. It's not really lying. It's more like the kind of the iceberg metaphor.
Yeah.
Where you see this surface part and it leads you to think that there's a whole thing underneath that you're not aware of, like this past or this lore that they come from. It's just like they hint at stuff that they never explain, but it just gives you a sense that there's more under the surface there. And I think they're really good at doing that, giving you a sense that people have stuff going on. They have interests and agendas that you're not aware of. I think they do that super well. That's what I expect to see here. And for sure, I expect to see some like romancing or friendships and stuff. But I think by far that is their main like toolkit for how they construct this stuff.
Yeah. The one thing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, the one thing I know when it comes to like dialogue and talking to characters that I think I'm going to enjoy more in Starfield is just the way It's not a D&D game. It's not rolls and checks. It's more like, for example, we saw an example of persuasion, how that works, and it's more about what you say rather than a dice roll, for example. So that's like a different thing that I might enjoy more there.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, is how their entire conversation system and works, which is different. So therefore the game just sort of feels like it would have to be different. The reason why I'm bringing this up is, so I built my city in Fallout 4, my town, whatever, Sanctuary. Is that the original town in Fallout 4? So I built it, and it was terrible, right? Like, no, I mean, I built it terribly. It was more about, does it work? Does the generator have power? If it does, put the generator right in the center of the fucking town. I didn't worry about people walking around. But when you look at Starfield, you have people on your ship, right? People, NPCs, plus you have NPCs in your research centers, all of your bases. They've hinted at bases being able to be in some way, probably tangentially, but in some way connected, you know, whether it be in sales and production and stuff like that. What I have always felt Skyrim, all of the Elder Scrolls did, is they were like 7th grade breakups, where it's like, I'm breaking up. Okay, we're dating again. I'm breaking up. We're dating again. And it never, there's no real depth to it, because nobody has depth at that age. It doesn't even work. The human brain isn't working well enough to really have depth at that age. And that's the way Elder Scrolls have always felt. But it feels to me like we might get more. Or
yeah.
I'm hoping a little bit more. For example, work relationships are real. Are you going to be able to date any of the workers that you put, or romance them, or go just for a drink?
And now you have a crew, right?
That's what I meant.
So there has to be dynamics and stuff. Yeah.
Right. I don't want exactly. I don't want the crew to just be like, I am the guy who runs guns. And you're like, okay, but do you have a funny thing from like Firefly where you're Wash and you have some funny things you say?
That's one of the best things about sci-fi media, is like the crew.
Dude, it's everything, right? It's everything. Yeah. And I don't know what we're gonna get. I'm hoping we get a little bit more. That's it. I'm not. I don't need a big simulation, but it would be nice to have some cool stuff pop up. Reading some of the stuff. Javier, what's up, Javier? He says exploration is the bread and butter of Skyrim and Fallout. Not expecting much more than that. Don't see Starfield having the same depth. Bethesda seems to do a wider RPG rather than a deeper one. Actual romance is the only thing I dislike about BG3. Everyone is thirsty as fuck. I would actually agree.
Okay. No, I saw that comment a lot, but I've seen also comments that are like, why doesn't anybody want me? And I've been trying, and I've seen videos where it's like, so some people just like, because of your choices.
Or you just say it's like mimic in real life, man. Nobody loves you in real life.
Sometimes people will have the hots for you, and sometimes
I have not heard that, but that would hurt my heart a little bit if they're like, I'm trying and nobody wants to date me. You're like, what are you doing in this game where a bear doesn't want to screw you? I was seeing a lot of discussion about Mass Effect 3. They removed the butt cam from Miranda when she has a discussion. People are like, this is, like sexually blah, 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 blah. And then you look at Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm like, I do get what people were bringing up, that it was a conversation about a deep family issue with Miranda, which I do get the conversation. I do think it was overboard to switch it. I didn't think it was like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But Baldur's Gate, it's difficult to talk about like sex in games and having even one desire or the other once you see Baldur's Gate 3. There's some crazy shit.
It's like, hey, you want to see a magic trick? Yeah. Oh, we're in love now. Oh shit!
No,
everyone
it's
thinks
not
we're
even
in a relationship.
There, you can have goofy stuff that comes up, but I mean, there's shit that happens with other characters that you walk in. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't. Oh
yeah, you walk into something.
Yeah, so I'm just like, dude, I don't know. This conversation has become, and in a way, it's good that Baldur's Gate does that, because then I think this moral high ground people are on. We're like, well, technically, we shouldn't show butt cracks, blah blah blah, and you're like, well. At this point, we're showing bare ass cracks. So, like maybe it'll be less of a discussion, because that's such a small thing when you look at all this other stuff. There's so many other things that I think matter. So a lot of people are saying they don't expect Starfield to do this. The reason why I'm saying I want it is because I would love them to go against expectations. Yeah. It would be awesome to see people talking about Bethesda and be like, holy shit, this character actually responded to something. That would be... it would be a cool surprise. It would be more than, because I don't want same as. That's a little bit what I don't want. Fallout 4 in space. It's like, great, but we're 10 years down the road.
We already know that's not the case, too. Like,
they already
they already shown us that they've gone back to more RPG.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to see, man. We got just some crazy games.
And there is an early access for, I think, premium edition or deluxe. I'm not sure.
For Starfield?
For Starfield. And it was like 4 days early.
Dude, oh man, I hate that.
Yeah, that's the worst one.
I think, the main problem I have is with multiplayer games that do that. Because it kind of breaks up. Like, some people will be going into it 4 days early.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get in, it's like you miss the train.
Single player games, like we were talking about being part of the conversation.
That's what I'm coming from. I'm coming a little bit from the FOMO of where I'm like, listen, guys.
Yeah.
I get you got a smartwatch that people are going to use for 1 hour and then fucking never charge again. Like that kind of stuff. Whatever. I would rather have it be like everybody's jumping in at the same time. But I'm going to be honest. There is a small chance that they're also looking at cloud and going, do we want to test it, with less users than just saying, okay, everybody can play? Because you're like, is that going to affect the servers for the downloads? Is it going to affect the servers for cloud?
It's funny because the Baldurs Gate people were saying they were ready for 100,000 concurrent players, and they got up to 800.
I know. No, they said they would be lucky if they got 100,000.
Yeah, lucky. They got 100,000.
Well, no, but they were prepared, on the technical side.
Yeah, on the technical side. Because didn't he say, I'm not going to IT's room today? Because he said,
because he told them to expect at most 100,000.
Yeah.
And it's so great because, it's great that they're doing well. What I'm hoping is we don't see everybody, and this happens every time. Every single year, people still compared a lot of games to Tears of the Kingdom, but if they were good, they were good. So it's great to have this game, but the next Pillars isn't going to have all this. If it's good, it's good. You might be like, third person would be great for some of these discussions. If it's not there, it's not going to make me immediately think the game is lesser than. It'll just, whatever they deliver is what you're sort of looking for. It's going to be a long discussion for a long time where games do get compared to all these games in 2023. All of them. Starfield.
It happened with Elden Ring.
Yeah. And I think it's happened with 2 or 3 games a year. February, you got a game. June, July, you got a big game. Then boom, you have your big game in the winter. Now, it's like, this is ridiculous. There's, and I saw the crazy knee-jerk reaction from the Armored Core fans that was beyond belief when anybody said even the smallest negative thing about it. So it's like there's already people prepared with the defense force, putting their fucking fake cardboard armor on and just getting ready to attack on the internet. But I mean, it's awesome to have this problem too. I mean, there's something cool about 23, man. This is just ridiculous. It feels like I've played so many good games and bad ones that it's hard to even know what I'll return to in 5 years, because I do play some old games, and I've been wondering that in my brain. I've played a little bit more Baldur's Gate because I'm like, will I return to it? I better play it now. Because there's a lot of games in 2023 I'll probably want to return to in 2 or 3 years. And I see Starfield as probably being the one that'll be installed on a hard drive forever.
Yeah.
Just
kind of
there.
And your mod list going,
Skyrim.
You're never going to delete it. Yeah.
Your mod list just, Get your Wabbajack.
Kind of like No Man's Sky, right? Maybe a comfort game you can come back to.
Yep. And No Man's Sky, that I just saw somebody saying something about No Man's Sky that caused, they were saying, I wish they'd move on. And I was like, well, I get that, but their updates in No Man's Sky are so substantive, they're so big, and there's so many new things they add that, to me, there's something cool about a gamer who doesn't hear about their game dying. I had it with Legion. Legion got patched up, and I'm like, there's some really cool parts of Legion. We're done supporting Legion. And you're like, damn it. And, you knew it was coming. It didn't sell as well, and the DLCs were okay. But there's something cool about No Man's Sky where it's like, here's a big patch. Here's a big patch. You had it with Subnautica. Subnautica was always releasing substantive stuff. There's something cool about the occasional game that's still around, and just getting that, something real. I love it. And when we're always into the discussion of how something rewards the gamer, I can't think of a better way to reward the gamer than actual real DLC content.
Yeah, more content.
If you're rewarding the people who are playing it for free, even. If it's not free and it's $5 or whatever, I even like that. Yeah. But just seeing all this stuff it's exciting to me. Thoughts on the lack of main character spoken dialogue? I hate it. We'll finish this on Baldur's Gate. I hate it. He stands like an idiot. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
So first of all, I think the voice options for custom characters, they're too similar, and you know what I mean? Because like you don't get like a gruff guy or whatever. They're all kind of designed for like hot young people. But I get it for custom characters, like if there's no dialogue. But I wish that if you were to play an origin character, that they would say their dialogue.
Oh, right. That's a very good point. I had not thought about that. Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know about you, Johnny, but we talked about this last podcast. I fucking hate it, man. I hate it because it's obvious that they pause you to give you a second to read, and your character's like, and you're just standing like an idiot.
The facial expression.
It is so awkward, that pause. Isn't it?
Yeah, it breaks it up for me big time.
Yeah.
Like I mind it here more than like I have no problem with it in first person games because I say it and then I click it and then it's me looking through my face. I don't see my character just standing there. So I like it more there. But here it can pull you out of. Sometimes my character just, dude, that's not the face I want you to make. That's not how I reacted to the information.
Absolutely,
don't make that
dude.
face, dude.
Yeah, don't make that. And my guy, I don't know if it's because I made him. I thought my guy looked amazing, like an Urukai. I was like, this guy looks badass. And I even had people saying, hey, man, that's a really cool looking orc. And then every cutscene is him just going, what? I'm like, oh, my God.
Derping.
Yeah, and then you'll see people being like, well, I'm glad it's not voice. I get that. You're glad that somebody removed the option for somebody else. Like, just allow us to turn it off.
Whoa.
Sorry, I got a huge motorbike.
What was that? Oh, somebody racing. That'll happen here sometimes, where I'll be sitting there and it'll just be, wah. Anyway, let's move on from there.
I love the idea Abzi said there. Like, if you select an origin character, you then get the voice. Yeah.
Right.
But if you choose to do a custom one, then maybe you don't. You want to go down the path of just, having it be like your own voice, like he was saying.
Yeah. Somebody here says they get used to it. Man, not me. Like, I do not get you. There's some cutscenes later. Maybe you haven't got there, but there's a couple cutscenes in Baldur's Gate where your guy looks like he quite literally was electrocuted and is just like halfway through a move. And you're just waiting. And it removes the cinematic feel. And instead it looks like Forrest Gump is trying to figure out what to say all the time. And by the way, my guy's pretty quick on stuff. So I would maybe even skip it, but I want the chance to say it. One of the greatest parts about Shepard in Mass Effect. And it's in the same sort of style of gameplay, especially if you're playing the controller. So I always want voice protagonists. And if you want to turn it off, that's one thing. But there's a great number of people who, like, that's what they want. And especially here where it makes a technical glitch, it just sucks. Moving on from there, though. Let's see. What else do we got? What did you guys put in the list? Because I copied this list late.
Rockstar acquired. They hired the modders that made 5M and Red M, which are the main kind of backends for all the RP servers, which I thought was awesome.
What does that mean, though? Does it mean they're working on maybe like GTA 6, or does it mean that they're doing an RP server for 5?
What I think is either or both. They're gonna help.
Sorry, guys.
They're gonna help Rockstar with like
no worries,
kind of interaction maybe, or with their online system, or they're just gonna integrate them so that the RP servers would be hosted on Rockstar, so they can make money off of it as well. Which would be smart as fuck because they'd give them the resources and stuff, and it'd be like the same thing. I think because for RP servers to actually be RP servers, you need community managers, leaders, you need moderation, you need people there.
And none of that's paid, I assume, right? Or for a lot of people, it's not paid.
I think different communities have different models for that. Some communities are free. Some communities have so that you have to pay for an application for a chance to get in or something, or donate, where they pay those mods or whatever. But I think instead of now, they just get the 5M model of hosting the RP servers, and then community people can just buy servers off of Rockstar to host their own RP servers. Yeah, that's what I think is gonna happen. And the reason I think that they are gonna do RP stuff is because they announced it on Twitter, where they're like, "Hey guys, we got 5M now."
Yeah, so I did see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exploded. I mean, it's such a big deal that it makes sense if like for them they want to add it to something. I'm hoping that they put it in 6 then right away or something, you know, because I mean, we can all admit Red Dead Online was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So if they had all this interaction and stuff, like you and I had to make our own interaction in the game, which I felt was really like such a letdown.
But some moments of fun when we went hunting
we had a blast, but we didn't have a blast because of the game,
we
right?
couldn't fish, man. Yeah, that's true.
We couldn't do anything. That was back when fishing cost money, like right at the all the weird shit was going on. Homeless Bird, $10 super chat. Safe Scummings helped me avoid taking on the accidental waifus in Persona 5 Royale. It's my first JRPG and a fantastic gaming experience, but romance in games just isn't my thing. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. It's not my thing either, for the most part. It has to be really good. It has to be really good for me to, like, really dial in to role-playing. Rockstar, though.
I have one thing there.
Absolutely.
And what I'm thinking is how much of the RP situation is like a lightning in a bottle thing that happened organically, and to some extent you can't really recreate. Like, you know, you could talk about the PUBG phenomenon or any other huge thing that has been tried to be replicated, but often just fails, right? Yeah. And we see with Red Dead, they kind of had all the pieces there. I mean, you know, it was a similar type of setup. It's Rockstar, so, you know, they had everything for it to work in a sense, but it totally failed. So it kind of makes me think, like, is it possible to repeat that? Like, or is it one of those things where simply GTA 5, you know, what happened there can't really be recreated?
I don't disagree. He means like the people overuse whatever game and create their own shit, and maybe with these new games it just I think it's
because we haven't seen this much of an RP community in any other game other than GTA 5. I think for GTA 6 it can, because it's the next GTA. But like even we see with Red Dead, like it didn't work out as well as GTA RP. Red Dead RP is a thing, but it's not as popular. Maybe because everyone doesn't want to do a cowboy accent, but other than that,
well, it's not only that. If you look at the big problem I had with Red Dead and what I talked about prior to it releasing that I was worried about online is one of the reasons why 5 works so well is because it's cars, motorbikes, and flight. There's a 3D element that doesn't exist at all, and your vertical does not exist. And there's you're over the city, you're flying, no problem. You go over a base, they shoot you down. That changes your thought process for what's safe and what's not. There just wasn't much going on in Red Dead Online, but it's also a world that's very tight. Remember, that world is super tight. Like, there's most people just have handguns. It's like no machine guns. There's you know, no swords. Not that GTA has, it probably does have swords, but you have this really tight timeline. So I think GTA 6 has a chance. I'm happy they did it because it's obvious that they talked to those guys and decided to do it. I do agree with Johnny, though, that we've seen lightning in a bottle before that then never comes back up. I do think RP, though, sticks around in a lot of games, whether it be Sims. You know, you see RP stick because people get a community they like, and as long as they build a good sandbox, I think they'll be in pretty good shape. I think. Yeah,
because RP is revolved around how good the community you're in is. Like, an RP server can be terrible, another RP server can be awesome because of the people.
And RP, just so, Johnny, I don't know if you ever played, this is ancient, so it might have even been before you're playing games, but Neverwinter Nights 1 had a server module, and I played an RP for Dragonlance, Ravenloft, whole worlds that people put together. And by the way, I think it was locked at like 32 people. So you didn't even have like a great number of people. It was tight. But it was awesome. And it was a good community. But I think that there are a lot of RPers that will go into 6. The big question is, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, are they going to shut down 5 because they want people to move to 6 online?
Oh, that's a good question. Will 5M shut its servers down for RP, or even
not only
Rockstar
RP?
shutting down GTA
Rockstar
Online?
Yeah, I'm
that's
wondering.
That's a good fucking question. Well, I don't
because it's a split, right?
Because a lot of people also invested a lot of money.
That's exactly why I don't think they can do it, because unless there's some type of like grandfathering of people. So if you had like a certain amount of resources or whatever, if you can kind of carry that over, maybe.
Or they'll sunset it and just be like, there are no updates to GTA 5.
Yeah. Well, we saw like Path of Exile 2, they're keeping Path of Exile 1 and actually gonna expand on both of them.
Agreed, but if you look at GTA, I think the amount of resources to keep online running is probably 800 billion jillion gillion times larger than but I agree with you. Path of Exile's like and Neverwinter for a while they were like Neverwinter 2's coming out. They still, you know, they let them run.
The EverQuest 1 is still going, man.
I know.
It's still going with
better than 2, by the way. 2 disappeared. 1 is the one that's still running. Yeah. Well, and Red Dead, you could say, is the same way.
Yeah. Got like 3 versions of World of Warcraft.
Yeah. 3. By the way, so many changes that I don't even believe if I played Classic, it would be the classic that I played.
That you played?
Yeah. I was talking to Josh one day.
All the hurdles are like the bugs, not bugs, like, you know, some specs being super
didn't they even change some of the landscape? Because the Turans lived in like the desert with the spires and stuff. And I thought somebody said in one of the versions that location isn't even the same.
Interesting.
By the way, they could have been wrong. It's just I was talking about nostalgic revisiting because the MP in the World of Warcraft I played was one of the few games I've been amazing for years instead of falling off where everybody gets so good. And I really love jumping into classic World of Warcraft MP. And so we were like, Super Chat Screwball says, anyone else besides me enjoying Jagged Alliance 3 more than Baldur's Gate 3?
Is Jagged Alliance like a Commandos type game?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of... Yeah, there's not a lot of... I mean, you can compare them. There's turn-based and stuff, but I didn't. I think... But I get what you're saying. Yeah. Silent Giant, $5. RoboCop Rouge City? Does he mean Rogue City?
Rouge.
I think he means Rouge is your makeup.
Just talking about World of Warcraft, people called rogues Rouges. But
did they? Yeah, no, I think he says RoboCop Rogue City is my September must-buy. I'm an 80s baby. Yeah, dude. I mean, Predator. I bought Mortal Kombat's Predator skins. Like, I'm all for that. But, yeah, RoboCop, I didn't even mention. That's another one. I don't think RoboCop's got a lot of heat on it. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about RoboCop.
It's AA, I think, right?
I mean, it might be, it might be pretty low. GTA 5 Online won't go anywhere after they release GTA 6. You remember that comment, buddy?
All right.
I don't think pin it down forever.
I think they'll sunset it if it does well, and if it doesn't, they'll just casually keep them both open, like they did with Red Dead.
I think they'll look at player base, and if they still have a good player base in 5, they'll keep it
because if you can sell to people in 5, you'll just sell to people in 5, right? Like
and like they already have their store in 5 is already massive. You can buy a lot of things. So.
I'm so confused about even online. Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say if they have more people, like way more people on GTA 5 than 6, like
it is very possible that is exactly what will happen, right? Because 5 has sold itself 85 times. There's like 112 versions of it.
They're already bought into their characters and stuff.
People bought it. In 6, CEOs. What you need to do is say, hey, you have 10 cars in 5, you get all 10 in 6. And that then puts them behind on sales because they can't resell it to you.
Yeah.
Well,
that's another thing Path of Exile did, where it's like, your microtransactions carry over and stuff.
They should, right? Like, to me, I'd be like, if you rewarded the people and said all your shit from 5 is in 6, great. Then just make more cars and put them in 6. Like, then people might switch without feeling lost.
Or like have the old stuff be, this is like the legacy stuff you can't get anymore, and only those people.
Dude, reward the.
And now there's new stuff.
See, that's a good idea to be like, okay, you're gonna have a tag called Classic Player, whatever, and all your shit is, locked out. GTA 5 is where that stuff came from, and the new stuff.
You could never get it anymore. Boom! Like
that would be cool.
I have a legendary hat.
I'm probably ignoring a reason why it wouldn't be cool, but I'm saying from what you just said, I thought it'd be cool. I'm not sure you can make RoboCop work in an FPS with his speed. Oh yeah, true. RoboCop walked at like crawl speed. I didn't think about that. RoboCop doesn't move fast. It's a good point. What else we got for chat or for discussion in the?
So I had my eye on this game, Punch Club 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
have you guys heard of Punch Club?
Yeah, I played. I think I reviewed Punch Club 1.
It looks funny.
Yeah, it was
a lot of references.
It was oddly addicting. It was charming, nostalgic. So you would be training, you would do fights, and then level up different fighting styles that you would prefer. You could like eat pizza, and I don't know, all this type of stuff that was really like fun, like a nice little fun side game. And Punch Club 2 came out. It's very positive on Steam. It's about $20 if people want to check it out. But it's just one game that stood out to me. Like the first one, I haven't played the second one yet.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first one being pretty good. They're a different style of game. You have to be into, like, you have to be okay with the older graphics and a different style. But I think those are a blast, and it sort of simulates, you know, a UFC fighter on the streets, which is always fun. So $20. First one's probably $5 now or $9.
Yeah, it's around $6.
Yeah. So I mean, that's always a good price to be able to jump into if somebody wants to test one before jumping into the other. But I've heard only positive things about it too. So, like, in the end, I think they knew what they were doing by making a sequel. They just made it better than with some added stuff. Like, that's a smart way to do a sequel, especially if you're a small company. A lot of these small companies try to, like, go nuts, and you're all, oh, dude, they failed. You know, that's why I think Path of Exile 2 looks like they've done a good job. It seems like they have all their shit in a smart, like, tight way that they're going to deliver it, even though isn't Path of Exile the one with like 8,000 skills or 8,000 like upgrades?
Yeah, I saw the thing is there's this community in Path of Exile. I think I talked about this in a podcast.
You may have.
I don't know if I did, but I always talk about this anyways. In ARPGs, especially in Path of Exile, it's like you spam an ability and you clear like a whole screen full of a million fucking enemies around you, right? And you just run really fast. And with Path of Exile 2, they showed that it's way slower. There's combo systems. It's kind of more like Lost Ark. You know, there's animations for attacks and stuff, and it's not as fast. So some of that core community that like that like speed were kind of disappointed. And for me, I was like, holy shit, this is something I would actually play now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It felt different than all of the other games. And maybe
which is why I think they're keeping one as well for people who like that type of gameplay more.
What's Path of Exile's claim to fame? What's the thing they're known for?
The spiritual successor of D2, of Diablo 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
because
when Diablo 3 failed,
right?
You know, Diablo 3 failed and Path of Exile did well, so it was like, oh, this is the next Diablo.
I don't know about you guys. I'm also, it could be because Baldur's Gate is CRPG, but I'm not hearing a lot of discussion about Diablo 4 anymore either. I mean, I'm not saying that means anything. It's just I haven't heard, like, I don't hear much other than complaints about a patch. You know, like, I could be wrong.
It needs time, man. It needs time to brew for people to give people the content they want out of Endgame. I think it's just gonna take a while.
Also, they kind of whiffed this season, in my opinion. The new mechanics are just not that interesting.
Oh,
they
really?
actually remove from some of the stuff you had. Yeah, because now instead of the slots on the gear that you had, you now have different slots that work with the new mechanic. So you can no longer use the slots in the same way for gear. Yeah. So you can put gems into it. You now put the hearts, which is the new thing. And it's just not a very fun mechanic. And not different enough, in my opinion, to cause you to go
necessitate.
Yeah,
because you have to do a full new playthrough.
Yeah, and at the same time, I expected it because I was like, it's their first season. I doubt they're gonna introduce some crazy shit. So I'm just but I the game when I was doing the story leveling up felt way better to me and more grounded than later on, and I was like, oh, this is turning into like like ARPGs that bore me type.
CRPG means computer role-playing game, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Some people call it classic, but it was originally
because originally it's computer.
Yeah, because there wasn't. I mean, like when they first came out, Akabeth. Now we're talking prior to you guys being born, but they had the typical D&D skills, and that was it. And then over time, a little story got to, it went from dungeon crawlers to a little bit of story, and it's
was
weird.
Baldur's Gate 1 the first like big CRPG?
No. That hit that big? Yeah, for sure, because it came during the Dragonlance Forgotten Realms era of books, and at that time it was unbelievable how big those series of novels were. They're easily the Game of Thrones of their time. Like it was unbelievable. But no, there were a couple prior, but they didn't do as well because Baldur's Gate did a good job with voice acting and stuff like that. And a lot of CRPGs back then were reading, not a lot of voice acting, a little bit, didn't look
Fucking
as good.
Planescape Torment with like 5 paragraphs.
Yeah, right, yeah. And then you suddenly get Baldur's Gate. And my favorite beyond the Baldur's Gate is Icewind Dale. The Icewind Dale 1 and 2, they're a little bit less RPG, a little bit more battle, but that means when the RPG parts happen, to me, it hit harder. And we were playing LAN of that for just weeks. There's something about Icewind Dale that hit harder to me, probably because it's snowy.
BioWare?
Yeah, no.
Obsidian?
Man, Icewind Dale, it must have been BioWare, because it was the very typical extension. Icewind Dale.
So BioWare was one of the ones that were continuing.
Yeah, Black Isle. What am I thinking? Yeah, Black Isle, which was prior to BioWare. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But those guys, the way they were able to build stuff back then, just took a massive leap one day, and that was pretty much Baldur's Gate. Because there were this company called SSI. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but they were the same thing, but not 3D. They were 2D sprites, but it was isometric, so it looked slightly 3D, and they did all the Dragonlance, the hardcore D&D, what is it called? Grey Earth? No, it's not that. I can't remember. But back in the old D&D section, and then Baldur's Gate hit, and it was that jump in graphics, that 3D jump, where suddenly people were like, oh my God, this looks incredible. Somebody remind me, who made... or it's SSI made a bunch of games, and I keep saying it's Grey Earth, but that's not what it is. It's Gary Gygax's original land. He's the one who made D&D. Instead of having 50 different options, now you have a pick of 18. Oh, Bard's Tale was another one, yeah. Those were the old games, Bard's Tale. You guys haven't played Bard's Tale unless you played the 3D one that came out on PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
I played the most recent one by Inexile.
4.
Yeah. There's 4, and then there's the Bard's Tale that came on the PlayStation, maybe 1 and 2 and Xbox, where it was all like a giant rat in the basement. It was tropey. It was a lot of goofiness. The original Bard's Tales were dark, really dark. Thief of Fate. Oh, Temple of Elemental. Greyhawk. Thank you. I don't know why I was calling Grey Earth. Well, it's close. So I spent an entire conversation with the guys yesterday talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I kept calling Gamora Gordita. So I'm close. I'm close 80% of the time. What else do we got for discussion? We're looking through here. So I wanted to point this out. I don't know if you guys saw this. Metro 2033 author. Russia gave him 8 years in prison because he posted a social message against Putin.
Oh.
Yeah, so he got 8 years in prison, which sucks. No. And by the way...
A message against what, sorry?
Putin. Russia, leadership, how they handled the war with Ukraine kind of stuff. The problem in Russia is their prisons make even the worst American prisons look like, daycares. So it just sucked. I put it up there because it's social media post.
Maximum security?
No, dude, there's a amazing documentary. YouTube Documentaries has a list of thousands of documentaries, and I found one in there that was just about the gangs and stuff in the Russian prisons and how they're run, way beyond maximum security. But it's not only that; it's run by the gang. It's a disaster show.
It's like the Prison Break in season 3,
or Extraction too. If you've seen the new Hemsworth movie, you just see some crazy shit happening where you're like, yeah, it sucks. Game Pass alert for Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 came on my phone.
Oh, yeah, they added those too.
Did they? The Game Pass?
Yeah.
Man, we are getting some crazy coverage.
On the Baldur's Gate, not Baldur's Gate 3, but the Baldur's Gate Reddit, a lot of new players. They're like, yeah, I want to do 1 and 2 before 3.
They should. 1 and 2 they still hold up in the RPG fashion, maybe not so much in the graphics one.
I played 1. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you played 1 what?
No, I just played 1, and then I heard that 2 was the better one though.
Yeah, but and it was.
And then
it had
recap.
Tales of the Sword Coast was an expansion that was bigger than almost any game ever. Baldur's Gate they're huge. They're massive games. Yeah. Turim's asking a question. What devices do you guys use to listen to games for longer play sessions? Speakers, headphones, earphones, headsets with mics, etc. What do you play and listen to the most?
Connected to tube amp, connected to my DAC.
He crapped out there for a second. He was frozen for a second.
Yeah.
When you play games, what do you use, speakers or headphones? You answered you use headphones and a tube amp. Mostly. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think something cut out with my internet.
You cut out here too. Johnny, what do you do when you play games and watch TV shows? Are you using speakers, headphones?
For games, always headphones. Always. Usually I do the open back stuff. For shows, I actually like, if I'm by the TV, which is like a different spot, I like using my sound bar for just like shows and movies.
Man, I switch around a lot. I also have one of those collar speakers, which is really good for like doing deck work where you don't want headphones on, even open backs, because you might scratch them off your head or whatever. So I use a collar speaker, which is pretty good. It's the I think it's a Logitech, I can't remember, but it's pretty good. But overall, I would say it's almost always speakers. Headphones are great, and I always review on everything too, but headphones are good, like, if you just want to sort of separate yourself, even if you have open back, there's something about having the speakers right there. You know that the channeling is going to be done right, where speakers, depending on where they're faced, you might get one that bounces off. It's just headphones are always easier. You guys use wireless or wired? Right now, Absy's using wired. Yeah. What are you using, Johnny? You're wireless.
These are wireless. The only difference for me is if I want closed back or open back. Sometimes I feel like the closed back gives me a bit more immersion.
And then sometimes it feels like better, like brain and head wise with open back, right?
Exactly.
I hear a lot of people say that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I think open back gives me more immersion just because of the width of the stuff I hear.
Yeah, see, maybe it's because I have dogs and I live, like Johnny lives obviously on the street. You can hear the motorbikes. That's where I am. So closed back give me way more immersion. Open back is good when I need to hear, like we have an old dog and I need to hear if he needs to go out. So having open back is great. I was having an issue yesterday. I was playing games. Not only did the wife come home, she was asking me questions for like 25 minutes and just thought I was being a dick and wasn't answering. And I was just listening to Battlestar Galactica, messing around on the handheld, and then realized when she came in, she's like, "What?" Looking at me weird. And I'm like, "What, dude?" I had no clue. So that does cause an issue, if you do need to have stuff open. Cola Band says, games and movies, I use headphones because my kids are loud. I like the sound bar when we're all together. Yeah, I got to tell you guys, I do a lot at my computer, but occasionally we'll watch a show, and there is something nice about the home theater too, where it's like airy. You don't have to worry about headphones, and you're just sitting back. Don't have to worry about anything on your head.
Good subwoofers, and you feel the rumble and stuff.
Yeah, dude, and a good subwoofer, man, for a movie, or the Reaper's horn in Mass Effect, and you hear that.
Or watch a Nolan movie and just have your ground shake the whole way through,
or not be able to hear what they're saying.
See, we can't really do that here because it's all flats. So if I had like a 5.1 system with a powerful subwoofer, it would just be really bad for neighbors.
My old neighbor was deaf. That Cadiz lived with me at. We were on the third floor. We had a water bag, a boxing 300-pound water bag, and we would hit it. And I would go down. I'd be like, "Are you sure you can't hear me?" Because I don't want to. I would never. But she had said, "I can't hear anything. I'm totally deaf." So we would just go up there and beat that water bag for 4 hours. We'd have friends come over. We were doing martial arts. We would do all kinds of crazy. I hip tossed my girlfriend like. You're doing like rolls and shit. She never heard anything. It was such a great. That's the thing, is I don't have a good experience with apartments because I was either single floor or there where she couldn't hear. But I hear a lot of people worry about the people around them. Yeah. And occasionally I'll hear my neighbors. I don't get mad because I'm like, as long as they're not outside, if they're in their house, they're trying their best, to probably not be dicks. You hope. But yeah, do you like living on a flat, Johnny? Are you thinking about getting a home?
I am thinking. Basically. Now that I work remotely, I can go a bit further from London itself.
Right.
Get a bigger place. I would love to have a backyard where I can do some barbecue stuff. My cat can hang out there.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I'm looking at. Yeah.
That's very cool. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that'd be cool. Now that you work remote, a little bit easier to not have to worry if you're only going in once every month or once every week even.
Exactly.
That's cool. Little baby bar. Does a little baby, like maybe 10 foot by 10 foot yard, does that cost you a ton more? Is that like prime real estate?
So if I move away a bit more, it would be fine. It would be like the same cost of where I live now.
Mhm.
But in this area, yeah, it would be like
$100,000
more. And it's
Right.
already expensive. Like,
Yeah.
London is just really crushing for prices.
Yeah. And you're doing a yearly lease, or do you do a longer one?
No, I have a mortgage on this one. So I technically own it, but under a mortgage. So I would like remortgage
But you could
it.
remortgage it or sell it, or very cool. Next question. Blue Survivor. Hello, everyone. Longtime listener, new-ish patron. Last year, a close friend of mine gifted me a life-size cardboard cutout of Alan Wake.
Oh, like the ones, what was his name? Not Chuck. What was his agent? The guy that had the cutout for Alan? In Alan Wake, like his agent.
Oh, yeah. Barney?
Barney
Barney or Barry?
Yeah.
Barry. I'm sorry. It was Barry.
Barry.
Yeah. It's
When
true.
I say Chuck. Yeah. Barry.
No, I actually thought you were talking about the TV show Chuck for a second, because he was in a movie place. So I was just like, what?
No, because he would turn up with the cutout.
Yeah. He also gifted another friend of ours a small vial, mostly depleted uranium. I swear he's not crazy. I believe that many of us occasionally or commonly give or receive gifts that we may have a hard time explaining. What's the most unusual gift you remember receiving? I know mine, but do you have one? Do you have an unusual gift?
No, not really.
Like nothing that made you go, you don't even know me at all, motherfucker. Like nothing that...
No, because I don't do that type of celebration for my birthdays or events in general with people that I'm not really close with. It's always like my mom and dad or like a close friend. So no.
The best one I got was I was 14. My mom, and I don't know why she did this, she bought me for Christmas Hellraiser, the movie. And I was like, not only is it not me, it's her. And I swear to God, she bought that for herself and didn't had a Alzheimer's moment or something, but she bought me this horror movie. And it's not even that weird unless you knew me as a kid. I just wasn't into that. And it was such an odd present. And it was that moment where you both look at each other and you're like, I have no clue why I got this present. I still think to this day, she bought it for herself and just wanted me to pretend like it was a present for me. Like she went to the store and was like, ooh, I really want Hellraiser. She would love horror movies, man. Were your mom and dad, like when you grew up, what was their favorite shit? Like, did they watch
My
TV?
dad was like Star Trek, Star Wars,
gotcha.
sci-fi, right?
Yeah, right.
My mom was more about the kind of Troy or that type of like more mythological or historic stuff. Yeah.
Did you ever, like when you were a kid, did you guys ever have to fight for the TV?
Yeah. No, not fight for the TV, but we had some times where my dad tried to get me into Star Trek because he loved it, right?
Yeah.
And it never worked for me. I was always like a Star Wars guy.
Right, yeah.
So there we did bond and we watched it a bunch together, but like Star Trek, we tried a bunch of different seasons and stuff. He was like, no, this season, trust me.
This season will grab you. This is the one, right?
And just never got into it.
We fought for it a little bit, but it was like that was the one positive of my dad working all the time. And so usually by the time I went to bed, he was just coming home. So it'd be like, you'd have the TV. My mom and I fought over the TV a lot. And I still remember the day we got cable was just mind blowing. Went from 3 channels on rabbit ears to cable. And I was so stunned by having 12 channels. That's all we had.
Wow.
12. But it was, to me, 4 times the number of channels I had had the day before. And crystal clear, where I never had. I swear to God, I thought movies were made with just a bunch of noise and visual static, because everything I had ever seen looked like crap on my TV. And then we got cable, and I was like, it's a new world. Oh, so great. Next one up, Kasiria says, hello, best gaming podcast, and welcome back to the world of gaming, Absy. Absy walked off. As the time is passing super quickly and vacation times are coming to an end, are there any destinations you'd like to cross off your bucket list? Some exotic island in French Polynesia, perhaps, or super chill week in a 5-star hotel somewhere on the coast of the Aegean Sea. Anywhere you've got on your bucket list to travel to?
Nothing too fancy. I've always wanted to see Japan, just because some of the old architecture looks really cool and I like the vibe. I would never live there. Everything about it seems terrible to live there. No offense. But yeah, I'd like to visit,
Do you I know, you know, in the past you've talked about being sick and having some physical stuff. Does that ever hold you back, or is that something?
It does. Yeah. I just have some walking difficulties and stuff. I have to get by with a walking cane and stuff. It's like pretty hard to get around. So yeah, definitely it's something that it's kind of hard for me to go and do like a whole trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because, dude, I do know what I mean. Like, I was running all high school, and we went to Hawaii, and in one day I was walked out, which just didn't think I had never, no matter how hard I worked out, I would always be able to walk afterwards. But we went for a walk in hard baking Hawaii pavement. Oof. And went to the beach and went swimming, which, by the way, if you've ever went swimming, you try to get out of the water, you're like, oh my God.
It's very tiring.
I weighed 7,000 pounds. Yeah. And we got back, and I remember that was the first time ever where, like, that sleep, the deep sleep of death, where you lay your head down and you're just like 12 hours later, you wake up and you're like, I'm pretty sure I was dead. Did you hear the question, Amzi?
No.
The question was, you just came back from a vacation, but are there any destinations you'd like to cross off your bucket list for a vacation? He gave examples like French Polynesian island or a 5-star hotel on the coast of the Aegean Sea. He had real examples, but are there any like places
I'd like to go to Japan.
That was Johnny's too.
Yeah, because I've never been to the East. I'd like to go to. I want to go to Berlin. I think I'm going to Berlin in February to catch a Near Automata.
Oh yeah, I saw you talking about that. Right, that'll be cool.
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna chill for a week there, explore. It's gonna be cold as fuck, but I like. There's a cool music scene there as well, and like old like record shops that sell like
old vinyls and shit or something.
Old vinyls and stuff like that. I always see online like getting sold for $1, but the delivery costs are like $20.
Yeah, right. You go to eBay and it'll be like $9. You're like, great, and then you hit it and it's like $77 for shipping. You're like, you sons of bitches. For me, I cannot think of a place I would ever want to go to for a long period of time. I would maybe Japan, but it'd be a short visit. One thing I've found is I overstay all my vacations. I get very bored very quick wherever I go. So it's like going for, this is going to sound weird, I would rather go for 2 days and really have to force myself to do as much as I wanted than whenever I get lazy on a vacation, it's hard to get me out. So like if I have that downtime, that's a disaster, because then I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not excited anymore. But I would go for a short trip to Japan. Wouldn't want to live there, as Johnny said, but a short trip maybe. But I don't even know what I would look at, because it's just as tourist trappy. I went to Hawaii, and that was the worst experience for a trip ever. So it's like,
did you see the fires there? Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. They're in bad shape. Well, we are here. There's 1,500 fires just in Canada, and then America's got like 5,500 or something. It's ridiculous, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, global warming doesn't exist. Neither do fires. Probably somebody out there who think fire isn't real. But yeah, trips to stuff is awesome, but this is going to sound really bad in a weird way. I do find that if I watch somebody else go on a trip, a bit of my wanderlust is sated. So if I watch somebody else go on, you got that guy who did the cooking show who passed away. He killed himself, unfortunately, I believe, or he had an overdose, but he was the huge cooking chef, Alex Bourdain, I think was his name. I got Alex wrong, I think, but Anthony Bourdain. I would watch his shows and be sated. Wherever he went, I'd sort of check it off my list of places I'd want to go. I'm like, hey, I got to see what it would be. I would like to go to Thailand because I have friends there. That would be fun. I'd probably get knifed. I don't know what Thailand's like, but Thailand would be fun. Thailand would actually, now that I think about it, that'd be enjoyable. I just don't want to go with friends. I don't want to go with my wife because we don't have the same. If I went with her, I'd go to a different place. There's different activities that I would want. And by the way, I'm not talking dirty ones. There's just different activities I would do with a group of friends than I would with my wife. My wife and I would be like. Or
your family.
Or my family. Yeah. Oh, dude. No. Like you went with your mom and dad? Not in a million years would I go. I love my mom and dad. I love visiting them for short stints of time. But the idea of going someplace and their idiosyncrasies and mine, I've traveled with Josh everywhere. We went to a bunch of events. That's been great. We had one friend who wasn't the funnest. And you get that thing where the person sort of ruins a trip. Where you're like, this is not a good idea. Got to check it off. What's
I
the story?
I really want to go to a gaming thing, like a
You
like
should.
a
Gamescom
conference or
Gamescom
anything.
you should go to.
Yeah.
PAX, I don't know what they are for you, but PAX West was fun.
I mean, I'd go to the States for one, or E3 or something. I really want to go to one.
Yeah, they are a blast once. Like,
I've never been.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get sick afterwards, most likely. Yeah. You got to be prepped.
I was planning on going to London on October 10 for the Final Fantasy one, but the fucking motherfuckers sold out so fast.
I went to the Final Fantasy Orchestra here in Oregon.
Nice.
They did, and that was good. I don't even love Final Fantasy music. I sort of like it. It's a little too like hero, that kind of. There's something a little too cinematic about it, but it was amazing. And I believe it was Square. I don't think it was just Final Fantasy. I think they did some of their other stuff. What's the story behind ACG? Angry Centaur Gaming. The name just didn't make sense because I didn't think I was going to be doing a YouTube channel. Always Caffeinated Gaming. That is what I called myself for a little bit, but then I didn't like that either. ACG works. You can think of it as whatever you asshole. ACG. Asshole. Oh, I was going to say another dirty word, but yeah. Favorite spell or move in a game? Want to be dev. Ooh, favorite spell or move in a game?
Teleport.
What do you mean?
Divinity Original Sin 2. You can teleport any unit, ally or enemy. Oh, the havoc I wreaked with that, man. I would take an enemy, place them in a horrible puddle of muck and blow it up. Like, put them all the way in Chinatown where they can't reach anybody and be super sad. Just the best, man.
Just ultimate control over somebody else with teleport. What about you, Abzi? Do you have any, even a move like a Street Fighter, hurricane kick? Is there?
Fuck it, man. Judgment Cut by Virgil from DMC 5.
Virgil had some cool moves.
He just goes like, and then the fucking the normal Judgment Cut is like you can like time it so that you can do it right after a combo, and then you see like it like juggles enemies or does something where it like holds enemies and damages them, or you can do the crazy one where it just cuts the whole screen in half and all the enemies just die.
Yeah, it's very cool. For me, I would say Angry Chokehold Gamer. There you go. I would say, I mean, in all honesty, man, the multiple hand slap for me, Honda, in the original Street Fighter 2.
Oh, yeah.
I just remember because I've always been interested in sumo wrestlers because they're highly athletic, and you don't normally an obese person, due to the body, the way a body works, it's more difficult. But when you look at sumo wrestlers, it's ridiculous, like full splits and fucking working out for like 10 hours, and you're like, what the hell? But they're just eating because that's the tradition. But I remember playing Street Fighter at a carnival, and I did that move, and it was just pressing a button. It wasn't even hard to do. But I remember I just destroyed my friend because he was like, what the fuck? He just keeps punching. I was like, this is awesome. He just, it was such a cool move. People are saying Doom, Berserk power-up. Yeah, that's for sure. I think the Bazooka power, or I think Doom had also, was it Eternal that had the specials or whatever? Like where you could like grab their head. That was pretty cool. A little too baked in. Like you do it a little.
I like the shotgun grappling hooks are always the best. But shotgun grappling hook from Doom was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. Man, remember when Doom 2016, right? Is that the year?
That's the first one, yeah.
When Doom came out, and it was just like a ballad of explosions, and it got the movement right, better than Eternal. When you're playing it, and it just felt like I was saying in the review, like death parkour. Like you're just constantly leaping and jumping and running to the side, and bullets are barely missing you. And, and that feeling of like just movement and lickety split where you had to be like going forward, and there was...
and it clicks,
Dude, it felt so good, man. It was such a great title and a good surprise. You guys saw Quake. Quake got shadow released, so are you guys going to jump back into... Yeah, Quake 2. Sorry, the remix, the remastering or whatever. Yeah, Quake and the N64 version, I think. That was yesterday. They both got...
Where do I find this?
Xbox.
Remaster?
Game Pass. Yeah, it was yesterday.
Oh, it's a remaster. Okay. I thought they were making a new Quake.
Oh, sorry. No, I should have said that.
Okay, Quake 2.
Lance says it isn't run and gun, more like mow and go. Oh, did I say that in Doom's review? Yeah. That is the way. That is the way that game feels.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah,
it looks pretty good. Damn, they actually remastered it like an actual.
And on Game Pass, somebody said.
Damn, I like it. I like the guns and it looks better.
This guy says E Honda has a brother.
Is it the one with the
Toyota.
story and everything? Yeah, it's the one with the
joke.
story and everything, right? Yeah. Holy shit! Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's all right. I think when you look at the old remasters and stuff, if they don't go full and just do a remix like that, it's such a good idea. Like there's something about it where it's like, yeah, we're not gonna fucking blow the world out. We're not gonna make a whole new Quake like we did Doom. And then the Shadow release, there's something about that I think works when you aren't doing a remake. When you just surprise people and it feels more like a gift of surprise. Yeah, exactly. Where the expectations haven't taken 6 months of Reddit posts of people being like, it doesn't look good. I saw a pixel. Digital Foundry says it drops a frame. I'm like, Jesus. So to see that release like that is really cool. Do you think we are in for a new Quake game, SBZ says? Maybe they're testing the waters, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, a Quake remake like Doom, I would do.
Yeah, there's definitely a market for, what do they call them? Boomer shooters?
Yeah. Boomer shooter because it's a boom or because it was back in the... See, boomers are...
I have no idea.
2 decades prior to that.
Yeah, I thought it was... I don't know why I think it's just a boom. Like boom.
Yeah.
Boomer
you never know, right? You never know.
Or maybe it's because like the old style. Like
I think it's the old...
Is it old style?
Right, but I'm saying boomer would have been 2 decades prior. So if we're using that as the explanation, we are looking really stupid.
Well, yeah, but nowadays people use boomer as just like someone over 30 years old or something.
Yeah, even over like 25.
You graduated and you got a driver's license. You're a boomer.
You're a boomer.
Lance says, I want a new Heretic or Hexen. Me too. I played Hexen on the Sega Saturn, which means not the greatest. But I played I believe that might have been Hexen 2, but I played so many hours. Basically, I don't know if you guys have done Hexen, but it was like a first-person Doom, but with magic. So you could have like you had like a staff to cast spells. Oh, so
cool. They did the people who made Dusk made one called a Medieval that was like that, which is kind of like that Doom style boomer shooter, but with magic stuff.
What's the game where was it Painkiller or whatever, where you could shoot the staff, or you could shoot the fucking stakes and stake people to the wall? No, it was like Pain. Anybody know in the chat? It came out about 10 years ago. Painkiller? But it was like, no, it was a shooter, and it was one of the major claims to fame of it or whatever was this spike gun, like almost like a vampire, anti-vampire spike. I think it's Painkiller, man. Yeah. Painkiller.
Maybe. I just remember, like, I don't think I played it because I remember that from Bioshock. Bioshock 2 had
this was Painkiller. I was right. Okay. Painkiller. Yeah, Painkiller's awesome. So basically imagine like Quake, but more of a mystical. And then also, did you guys ever play Blood? Those old shooters? No. Blood with Caleb? Oh, dude, those were great, man. Those are ancient. Cortland says, what's up, brothers? Hope everyone's having a good Friday. Always. What else do we got going on? Looking through the notes here. What do we got for news? No, this has been a quieter week because Baldurs Gate has sort of got a bit of...
a couple things on my side.
Go for it.
So on one, Remnant 2 announced they're working on some new content. It's going to be new archetypes, weapons, and crossplay between...
Yeah, crossplay should have been in.
The different places.
Consoles and...
That's going to be really cool. Yeah.
And free, I assume.
That I don't know, actually. So the crossplay, yes, but I don't know if the new stuff is going to be packaged as a DLC or just a new content.
The problem is, if you got a DLC archetype, that sucks, man. Somebody else has got a whole different set of shit.
I feel like they can still get game sales with free updates.
Not only that, dude,
yeah, I think so.
Let me tell you guys a secret. Not a secret. Why did I say secret? Secret's not even the right word. Let me tell you guys a good idea. Do all those updates, but hide the fucking archetypes in the levels somewhere, like they do with the originals.
Don't even
like
them.
They've been doing, like people didn't know how many archetypes there were. The internet was like, dude, there's a new one we didn't know about.
Wouldn't that be amazing if they were just like,
just release a patch and say bug fixes, and then you'd find
or here's some new content. But,
dude, that'd be awesome. Bug fixes, and somebody's like, Anybody else get this
Wait
archetype?
a second.
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny. What were you going to say? I interrupted right when you were trying to talk. I apologize.
No, I'm excited for it. I think that's the juice in that game. It is the different archetypes, and they really change how the game feels.
Oh, dude, it's awesome. And it's such a surprise. Somebody asked if we have talked about Red Dead Remaster. No, and we're going to talk about that now. That was the last one. I saw a bunch of people mad about the price for this, which I get.
So it's what, 50?
Yeah,
$50,
or it might even be full. It might even be 60.
I thought it was 40. Ooh.
No, I get why people are like, whatever, upset, especially because it's not like a brand new anything. I don't know how much work's been done on it. I also am wondering about this. So it's not a full redo on a new engine or anything, which makes me think that the ideas of getting a Red Dead full remake is just never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's obviously, we've heard all the stories from the developers who used to work on it who said it was a disaster behind the scenes, that it barely runs. So like a remaster where you're just, replacing the textures or you're doing some upscaling seems to be what we're getting. It just doesn't.
Are they increasing FPS? I guess not, because it's just going on Switch, right? What is it coming on Switch and PS4?
Switch, I know for sure. I think Switch and PC. I don't think it's a. I could. Yeah, it's PC, okay. Right? I think. Somebody says, and it's half the game, no online. Was there an online in Red Dead 1?
Yeah, apparently I didn't really play it, but apparently it was good.
Dude, I don't even remember the online in Red Dead 1, but I do remember Undead Nightmare, and so the idea that people are going to be able to play that is going to be cool.
For me, yeah, it sucks, especially with that price. But I just can't play it unless I use an emulator. I don't know, man. Are they actually doing stuff to the game? Is it just re-releasing?
Not much. It's just re-releasing it onto the Switch and stuff like that. Switch and PS. He did the $. PS4.
Yes, dollar.
PS4, right?
Not even PS5.
No PC. So thank you, guys. No PC.
It might just still be 30 FPS.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a remaster at that, a lot of remasters don't improve their FPS. So, that's what we'll get. I mean, I don't know, man. Like I said, I just feel that this is just one more indicator to not get your hopes up for a remake. It just does not. Why would you even do the remaster? Why wouldn't you just do a remake and then put it on the Switch as well?
Are people still thinking they're gonna make a remake?
Yeah, people want it. I mean, dude, it's like I'm playing it on Xenia or whatever, the emulator. And yes, I own the full game. And it looks pretty goddamn good still. Like, it really looks good. Like, the game was ahead of its time graphically. Like, Rockstar already had a very good idea on motion capture and all their stuff. But it is a little buggy. You forget that I had the wagon go sky high, like straight up into space. You'd have the characters that would jet off into the sky. It does feel, and the one developer who worked on it, who did a big series of posts and stuff like that, said that they had to lock it down so much because it was a disaster behind the scenes. Anything that would slightly adjust would break the game. And so what they shipped was it was just tight. It was like any stuff that somebody could do to break it would break everything. So it just seems like it was a disaster. So essentially it's the Xbox version that plays. Yeah, but it's not on Switch. I do expect them to charge something. I think some people just think the Switch on a completely different system should somehow be free. The price I get, but it's not that surprising. I don't know. I think it's more disappointment not getting a remake. And then also being that price, people get a little bit upset. I saw somebody compare it to Mass Effect getting their remake, and I'm like, different companies are going to charge different things. Whatever. They feel like
also,
it's the right price.
They did 3 games, included all the DLC and up-resed and fixed issues, and sold it as one game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't hugely in love with the remake. Like, I wasn't for Mass Effect. Yeah. It didn't do near. It was a remake, but it really didn't make it magically a great deal better. And one of the issues with all those games is, I know you guys like 2 and 3 better, whatever, but they're not really the best in Control, even in 3. No. They feel a little like everybody's got to pull up their ass. Yeah. And I would have liked to have seen a remake attempt that. I just don't think it would have been possible. So I just want a 60 FPS Red Dead 2 update, but I guess I have to wait for Rockstar to charge me. Yeah, I mean, it's also the CPUs on these things. I don't know if you'll be getting it. Oh my God, somebody said, let's forget the GTA Trilogy Defective Edition. That thing was...
That never happened. Never happened.
And that thing was bad. What else do we got going on? What's going on in real life? Anything amazing?
Well, there was one other thing before real life. Sorry, real quick.
No, go for it.
So the PlayStation 5 has a cloud streaming service that they're putting in beta now. So this is kind of like GeForce. So the game is running on the cloud and being streamed to your PS5.
Yeah.
And this apparently goes up to no. Yeah, well, they had something like that, but this is a new service that goes up to 4K and will be included with the PlayStation Essentials, I believe.
There you go.
Their subscription thing.
That's it. Go.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog was begging.
Unclear if it's going to include like a subset of games or what it is at this point, but
I mean,
they're kind of going heavy on the cloud, right? With Q and this.
Yeah, or on streaming in general. Yeah.
Streaming, I meant, yeah.
I mean, it is what it is until we see it and their servers and all that stuff. It's hard to know. I think that they should do it. They've already streamed for a long time. It's just like the remote play stuff. There's been all types of weird ways you can do things. So I like that they're doing it. What I can't wait to see though, Johnny, and I said this in the Discord when this was announced, I cannot wait to see people on PlayStation podcasts twisting themselves into a knot to try to pretend that suddenly the cloud is cool. Can't wait. Because you know it'll happen.
Now that they are doing
it. Oh, dude, it's delicious. You know it's going to happen. Oh, they'll be standoffish at first. Well, I don't know. But then after a while, they'll be like, cloud is the future. It happens every time. It's one of the reasons why I just don't listen to those anymore. But I think cloud is the future for a lot of games and game styles. I do Baldurs Gate on the cloud all the time, streaming to my handheld stuff. I love the idea. For some games. You know, some games maybe, you know, Call of Duty. Don't know if you're going to want to stream that. But just depends. You could stream the single player with no issues, but you know, you don't know if you want to do multiplayer. I love the idea of it. Depends on how much it'll cost too, right? Like,
yeah,
will they raise the price?
Yeah, that's true. They could, but for now, all they said is it would be included in their baseline subscription.
Yeah, I love the idea of it. Is there any news on the PS streaming handheld? Not yet on release date. On the other hand, the PSVR 2 is out. We don't have news on that. PSVR 2.
Yeah.
Like,
damn.
That's one thing.
It's just like crickets.
Right. And that's the problem. The reason why you don't see me really emotional about the streaming thing is this is one thing Sony's sort of known for, is being like, we're going to do this. And Microsoft has done it as well. So any, you know, Microsoft haters, you can agree. There's definitely issues with these companies announcing things and them not happening. So it's like,
yep.
I don't care about a beta. I want to see it and be like, okay, like what is happening? And is it something they'll support? They're adding it into the, you know, the package, which makes sense. They see the future of it and people, you know, not buying hardware and just buying, you know, like I know a lot of people, by the way, I have 3 friends who do not have PC or Xbox. They have like gamepad laptops and TVs, and they're all getting cloud for Starfield. They're just going to stream Starfield onto like their fucking Fire Stick or something, like whatever they can get it onto. It makes sense. You know, some people just don't have the money, but they got good internet, or they don't have a PC because they don't want to, but they want to play Starfield. So I think it's a good idea. Oh, and did you guys see that somebody just posted this? Valve selling refurbished Steam Decks. That's pretty cool. It's only 20% off. It should be 50 minimum, especially as ancient as that fucking system is. But that's awesome. If you want to get into a Steam Deck, you can get into it, you know, if you trust. I trust refurbished because most of the time their requirements are even higher than a new item. So I think that's awesome. Both of you guys have Steam Decks? Or
no?
I don't. No.
Okay. Gotcha. Master says, I don't know if I'm just old school, but if I want to play a game, I'm going to sit down and play it on a console or PC. I don't have time to play games anywhere else. But
Well, you'd still play through your
Yeah, you're still
console.
going to be playing either through the television or the PC, or even through the console, like Xbox. You can still do through the console. So I don't know exactly what that means. I think it just means I want it locally, which I get. I still like my deck. I still feel like my deck is new. I don't know what that means either.
Taking good care of it.
Yeah, he's polishing it every night, like sitting up late at night, cleaning the screen.
Just polishing that deck.
Yeah, I mean,
why does it sound dirty?
The polishing my deck. I think that's the greatest thing, though, man. Is gaming is available for anybody. A Fire Cube owner can play GeForce, and those are cheap. Like a Fire Stick 4K was $29, so somebody could play. You have to sideload on the Fire Stick, I believe. But you can play these games, and then GeForce is adding a bunch of Xbox games, and GeForce's servers are incredible. So, in fact, if Sony Streaming does well, and they're saying it's 4K, we'll have to see what that means, rendered 4K or streamed 4K, and even like how the pictures I've seen actually look pretty grainy. But regardless of that, if Microsoft sees that, they'll just put more games on the NVIDIA and let them foot the bill for the hardware and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a cool time, man. I played Yakuza Like a Dragon over the Xbox Cloud streaming service and was impressed with the consistency. What guitar? People are asking about your guitars, Johnny. Point them out. Which ones you got? How many do you got? 1, 5, 6?
I got 7 total. Japanese Tokai, which is a Les Paul replica. Jackson, just an American nice metal workhorse of a guitar. That's the most kind of pricey one, the blue one, because it's an American Fender.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a metal BC Rich there. It's similar to the one from Stranger Things where the guy played.
At the end of Stranger Things.
Similar, just a slightly different model. And a couple other more, but those are this. And this right here is my kind of workhorse where I play everything, which is another Strat, but it's a red one. And just a slightly different config that I love.
What do you tune to?
There we go. Normally just standard. I have a couple in different tunings. For example, the metal ones tend to be drop D, where just the fat string is lowered a bit. And I've mucked about with different tuning, like open tunings and stuff like that. But I tend to always circle back to just standard.
I still remember my friend, he teaches guitar, and he came over, and I'm like, I want to learn guitar. And I'm one of those guys that, like, if I want to learn something, so I spent like 18 hours, back was all fucked up, because I'm like, I'm going to learn it in one night. We're playing, he comes over, and he's like, can I point something out? And I had tuned it wrong. And he's like, dude, everything you've learned is sort of not, I mean, positioning and stuff, you can
like the
still
fingering,
works.
like all the stuff
it was
is
I remember he was so disappointed, not towards me, but like in a, oh man, I don't even know if I want to tell Carrick, like, this is the thing. But I tried so hard, man, and that's something I don't think I can do piano quite well, but I cannot do guitar. I tried I don't even think I made a note. It was embarrassing. It was hours of like going like, why does this not sound even like a child accidentally rubbing the wrong note? Like I couldn't even get that to work. It was just one of those times. It's too much. And then the tuning, he's like, dude, you can tune it to blah blah blah. And I was like, what is that even? What? Different tuning? Because I'm used to a piano. It's all, it's like, this is this.
In a way, the piano is so like linear,
basic
isn't it?
and linear.
You look at it and you can sort of see stuff. Whereas like the positions on the fretboard that are kind of weird. They're not symmetrical. They're not like.
Oh, dude, that was the first time. That was one of the things. He came over and he's like, I'll teach you an arpeggio. And he just, or how to do one. And I was like, but I don't understand. Your hands aren't even in the same, like, how are you making that sound happen? If you're, like, because you do a keyboard or whatever, it's like high here, low here. And on a guitar, it's like, well, that's if you're playing this way. But you can also do finger tap. And I was like, no, it's not going to work. I still have 3 guitars and I still plunk around on them. But plunking is the absolute, that's what you'd call it. Like, it's terrible. I can't even listen to it. Like, I saw somebody try the violin. I think the violin, somewhat the same configuration. I wish I could play the violin.
That's a rough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Dude, I remember being a kid and I passed up on it. My grandmother was like, I'll teach you piano. And she sang all the time she played piano, and I passed it up. And it's still to this day is like the one huge life changer I wish I had learned. Because I would love to. I mean, I play it now, but nowhere near as good as if I had started at that age. And she was so good at it. And she was like the soft fingered grandmother where she's like, no, she taught me Silent Night and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I passed up on it.
You know, I always thought the wind instruments were the hardest to learn because it's so.
I did saxophone for a while.
Hard to pin down. Did you?
Yeah, it's not a
because
wind.
Because like, what's
air.
a correct way of like blowing air into it?
Right,
like, how do you write that down? It's so.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
so weird.
That's the thing that I like about those. If you get a maestro, so one thing that impressed me, for example, Bill Clinton. The reason why Bill Clinton won the election was because he understood kids, which is why he was banging in the White House. Like, he was a younger president. Shit's going to happen. But I remember him coming out on Arsenio Hall and blasting it on the saxophone. And I was like, I'd vote for you, motherfucker. Like, I went from like, no to like, if I was a voting age, I'd probably vote for you. I have such a respect for people who can play like those kind of instruments. Which
huge.
Yeah. And I remember.
Imagine how painful sorry, I was just going to say, while you're learning and you're sucking, that period is so terrible because you're exposing yourself and everybody to just horrible noise. Like someone, and I'm sure everybody has heard someone who is trying to learn trumpet or
bagpipes,
saxophone, bagpipes. It's terrible. It's like aggressively bad.
Yeah. Do you know what's weird? So teaching boxing and teaching martial arts, that's the one reason why I think I stuck with those when I was younger, is because if you're younger, there is no, I don't look at somebody throwing a kick and they do it poorly. I don't go, that's ugly. But with sound, you can't hide it, right? Like your practice, if you're by yourself, you can shadow box and quite literally go, as long as you're not mimicking a bad like example, you can learn how to box much better if you practice on your own. But you can practice on your own quietly in a room. No one can hear you. But when you grab a musical instrument, I think piano's not bad. I see people joke about it in movies where somebody plays the piano poorly, and I'm like, that's nothing compared to violin. I had a friend who was learning violin two doors down from me, and I was like, oh my God.
It's so terrible, isn't it?
I guess with guitar, you can do, because I have the personal amp that goes to the headphones, so that's one nice thing.
Yeah, that's better for sure.
Yeah, the most they can hear is like, oh, Homeless Bird says, I always want to learn the cello. Dude, cello turns me on. I don't know why. I'm sure it's where they hold the cello and stuff. There's something sexual about cellos.
I see. Yeah.
I remember growing up and I saw a person doing one at an orchestra, and it was a girl playing the cello, and I was like, what's happening to my groin?
Touch me like you touched that cello. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and cellos have a amazing, it's like oboes. Oboes have a fucking incredible sound. Oboes and cellos are like my two favorite things. There's something, when I hear like an oboe, a good oboe in a video game soundtrack, I almost always am like,
because that's deep, isn't it?
Oh, dude,
like,
yeah.
Damn,
and it's got a multi-timbre thing to it that I'm just like, and if somebody really knows how to play either one of those instruments, violin is awesome, but something about violin, I can't pick up if somebody's good or amazing. But with like oboe, for some reason, if somebody's really good, there's something about it that sounds different. I mean, that happens to guitarists too. I'll hear somebody play guitar and I'll think they're good. And I mean good as in, let's say, you could play in a band. And then I'll talk to somebody else and they're like, dude, he's terrible. Like, he's just terrible. And he knows he's terrible. Like, I wouldn't have brought it up. I was like, oh, yeah, he's pretty good. And they're like, no, man, he's like 6 weeks in. I'm like, it sounded good to me. But then you see somebody like Vi play, and you're all, oh.
Yeah. Well, like, people are telling stories and shit.
Dude, Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac. I remember one of the guys who played insane metal was like, he could still not play one of the Fleetwood Mac songs. He was like, this is unbelievable.
Because they do incredible, like, fingerings and stuff. And
I think there's one called like Bleed to Love You that he starts up and it's like, and you're looking at it going, it sounds like there's not as many strings being plucked as there are, but he's like doing three at the same time, and you're just like, oh, those guys. Yeah, it's awesome when somebody has an amazing musical skill. I think that's actually cooler than almost any other skill, when somebody's really good musically and they can play. I'm always jealous. I played a mean triangle. My father was learning to play violin. It was hellish for everyone.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Do you play anything, Absy? You can do keyboard at least.
I've been playing piano since I was 5 years old. Like I know music theory, which made I feel like getting my foundation in piano and music theory made trying other instruments
a little
more
easier,
smoother, because I understand things like arpeggios and chords and notes that sound well together and chord progression. But I want to learn the saxophone. I really want to learn
saxophone would be fun.
I want to sample a lot of saxophone stuff.
Have you guys ever noticed too? There's a lot of instruments you could go to the sidewalk and play, but the saxophone is the one that, like, to me, seems more fitting. So if, like, I was walking down the side of a street and dude is just, sitting there, little hat upside down to throw some money, and he's playing the sax, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty cool. Because I've seen some people playing some wicked shit. Like, I saw somebody trying to do it on one of those keyboards that also has the air thing in it. Like, I can't remember the name, but it's got a keyboard and the air plays the keyboard, and it was terrible. And he was good. It was just that music that it's like bagpipes. Whenever I hear bagpipes, I'm like, yeah, I'll pass. They sound cool, but shout out to Holiday Road. My father, someone invented the holophone. Sax on the beach, Mystery Man says. What else do we got? Anything else amazing going on in our lives?
I started every Tuesday. I started salsa again. I used to dance a lot, and now I'm back to it, taking a class again. And we get socials every Saturday where you just dance with random people and stuff like that.
Cadiz went to like 5 years of multiple dance. They did like not improvising. He's not that kind of guy, but like all of the. It's always good to know how to dance because you never quite know when that. You go to a wedding. You don't want to be the guy who's like, I don't dance.
Yeah, Chandler.
Did Chandler not dance in Friends?
Yeah, and then he wanted to surprise Monica because he took dancing lessons, but his shoes were too slippery.
And not only that, remember, he had learned to be the female lead. Remember? He was like, because the janitor
Joey.
No, that was Joey. You're right. Joey learned how to dance the entire time and then found out
that was a wholesome episode.
Oh, dude. Some of those are great. Accordion, is that what I'm talking? I don't think it was the accordion. This was something different, guys. It was one of those side instruments that somebody created because they hated life. Like, it wasn't an accordion. I just don't know what it was. I would like to pick up more. Dancing is, I don't know, it's gone out of style, hasn't it? Like, you just don't see it, like, it's not a thing anymore. I don't even think they do, proms, obviously. But we used to have school dances all the time. Like, maybe 6 a year. Yeah. Like, every 2 months, you'd do a school dance.
I think school dances now are just kids looking at their phones, just standing in corners.
What's that called now? Thubbing, where you look at your phone. It's when you look at your phone when somebody's there and you ignore them using the phone. They've dubbed it thubbing. And I think that's when you're married. It's thubbing. It's the new term. Is Patreon the best way to support ACG? It's best for you because you can jump in the Discord and stuff. So yeah, I would say it's the best. You can be a member on YouTube. That helps. Yeah, I would say Patreon probably is. So yeah, what else do we want to learn? Is there any other things that you guys would like to pick up? Do you guys race? Because here you can take your car to the track. That's been a blast. When I had the other car before it got totaled, that was one of the things I loved to do, is go to the track.
So you take your own car?
Yeah, you can take your own car.
To a track?
Yeah, and then they time you and your car. So, like, if you posted, another person who drives on the track that weekend can then try to beat you if they have the same car, same weight limit, same horsepower, whatever. Yeah, that was always fun to learn. I've always liked that kind of stuff. Very cool. What about either one of you guys know how to ride a motorbike?
No, I've never ridden a motorbike. Now that I've
never ridden a motorbike, huh?
Yeah, I've done a lot of quad biking, but I've never ridden a motorbike. I've done mopeds, scooters.
They're going to be the same thing for the most part. Yeah, moped, scooter, even a bicycle for the most part, until you give it gas on a corner and realize that a bike doesn't do that. And then you crash. I had multiple friends who were like, dude, I've been riding bikes, fucking race 10 speeds. I'm like, okay, no problem. They get on a motorbike because or they panic and gun it. The number of friends I have who end up with an ass from ass to back scratch on their back from falling off the back of a motorbike by gunning it is crazy. Love racing. Bagpipe tuning is cool. They need to be slightly out of tune to sound right. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Wait a minute, Concenturna. I believe that is what it was, by the way. I believe that is what it was. What else do we got before we wrap it up? What are we at? 3 hours and 20 minutes. Holy shit. I swear to God, I looked and it was 1 hour. What the?
Yeah, time passed by really fast this time around. Holy shit.
Any other stuff you guys are imbibing? Let's finish this with TV shows or movies or music.
I started watching Foundation. Have you guys seen that one?
Yeah, I'm in season 2. So give me, what are your thoughts of Foundation, man? Like as a show, not just an extension of the books, but as a show, what do you think of Foundation as a show?
You know, it's a weird one. I've only seen 2 episodes so far, so I'm still kind of figuring it out. I think I like a lot about it, but there's something about the pacing of it that's feeling quite strange so far. Maybe it's just taking a little while to
catch on.
Unfold. Unfold.
I don't think it is, bro. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's disconnected. And I was talking to Sleeve about this because, you know, Sleeve will remind you every day that he taught movies and music, all that shit. Not music, sorry. But just joking. But I brought it up with Sleeve. I was like, why does Dune, the movie Dune that just came out, feel disconnected emotionally from characters? Why does Foundation feel disconnected? One of the things he had said is the director, you know, they can choose camera angles and stuff like that. And one of the problems with, not problems with Foundation, but it's sci-fi, so it's trying to show you the background. And unlike, let's say, Star Trek, where it's on a bridge, and so people are contained on a bridge, so it's easier to get up close. A lot of Foundation's camera work is distant or pulled back. And I realized that's what was bothering me. I've got all the way to season 2, a couple episodes in, but I'm like, why is this not grabbing me? Like, because I love sci-fi, but it's just, I don't care about the characters. It's not like The Expanse. I don't love The Expanse. I know everybody else does, but The Expanse still does a good job because it's a small ship. And do you know when The Expanse goes bad? When they land on the fucking planet and walk around and it becomes distant. And you're like, okay, I'm not as bought into this now. But when they were on the ship, dude, I was like, legitimately, I liked it, which is a lot for me because
because you're rooting for them. It's like, you know, it's the crew, right?
And you see the up close, every emotion. If somebody's no, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just gonna say I was like Foundation, because my dad sent me a trailer and he's like, yo, check this out, because he just started watching it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different show. Oh, there was a super chat. Glad to see you guys back live and on YouTube. Thanks for the content. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's just pulled back. I saw people saying they watched the new season of Witcher. That also is not doing well. And this is why I think Cavill made not a good choice, a good wrong choice, which was to go to Superman, even though it failed. He's now doing Warhammer. Witcher 3 is still him. And it's not doing well. So whatever he felt, whatever pull he felt to leave also means he didn't feel enough pull to stay on Witcher 3. And I think he's made a great decision because Witcher season 3 is not good. It is really, really not good compared to like the first 2 seasons. And I think season 2 wasn't even that great, right? Isn't season 2 considered to be a pretty big step down from season 3 of Witcher?
I don't know. I didn't like season 1, so I just didn't continue.
All right. Johnny?
Yeah, I thought it wasn't as interesting.
We're being asked, what music do we listen to?
So recently I've actually been listening to quite a bit of synthwave, which is quite different for me. Usually I'm more on the, you know, instruments type thing, guitar driven music, but it's been really, really nice because it's a type of music that it's almost meditative. You know, you enter a type of trance in it. Yeah,
I love that kind of music. What were you going to say, Abzi?
I was just going to answer the question.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
Sorry. I like right now I've been in a breaks mood. I like breaks a lot. I like breaks and you know, electronica, some electro, some house. But I've been on a breaks kick because I love their percussion. They have this like swingy hi-hat vibe where it's like tick, 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 rather than like tick, 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 you know what I mean? It's like it's a cool swing kind of. Yeah, I like it. There's a lot of movement.
I think I told Johnny this, but I was listening to my device that tracks you in your house, and it was playing what I thought was like Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin, and it turned out to be Greta Van Fleet, which is a newer band. So this entire time, for a good 6 months, I was like, who's this band? Because I've never heard them. They sound a lot like Led Zeppelin, blah, blah, blah. But I got to say, I like them, man. They're an odd musical choice for me, even though I'll listen to almost anything. Pretty much anything, because I'm always interested in people who are good. Even if it's a music that like I don't like, if somebody's talented at something, I'll be like, oh, dude, how are they making that sound good? But I got to admit, man, they're surprisingly good. And they've got, I mean, they even dress like Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin from the 70s, like with the big white capes. And like, it reminds me a little bit, what's the group, Stone Age? Something of the Stone Age? I think they came around. Queens, didn't they come around and have a little bit of an older look? Black Crowes kind of stuff? I could be wrong on that. Yeah. Because sometimes you get that band that comes back and sort of reinforces the old days, and it sounds pretty good. You know, hair bands, it's happened a couple times. Of course, Nickelback's still around.
Yeah, there are a few out there that do a style similar to Boston, you know, the classic rock stuff.
Yeah, right.
They do a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's coming back to a little feel-good music, you know? You can only listen to too much Eminem before you're like, all right, seriously. And I love Eminem, by the way. Like, I think it's like one of the best, like, just lyrically, I love listening to him. But sometimes you're like, can anybody talk about anything good and not like, you know, their daughter turning into a whore? Right? You're just Jesus. I'm not lying. Like,
it's a bit heavy.
It is. I'll be listening. I'll be like, dude, this is awesome. And then I'll look up the lyrics or listen to the lyrics and I'll be all,
I remember when he had like a album that was like super dark, and then after that, an album that was just comedy.
Well, his first album was, you know, or not. Just something goofy. I used to like Kid Rock back in the day, but he's sort of lost his mind. I recently started getting into Massive Attack, and it's been a great. This is Homeless Bird.
Massive Attack is awesome.
Are they?
Like
Are they electronica too?
Yeah, they're electronic.
Yeah. Okay, I've heard them. Black Pumas.
Down tempo.
Queens of the Stone Age. Heard Metallica's still touring. Metallica's going to tour until one of them croaks. Right? They're like the Rolling Stones, where those guys, I don't think those guys, well, did the Rolling Stones stop touring? Maybe they did. AC/DC did for a while.
One that's similar to, let me just pull it up. One that's similar to Massive Attack is Portishead. I like Portishead a lot. Yeah. They did a really cool cover of ABBA's SOS.
Dude,
made it a little bit slower.
If ABBA's on, I leave it on. I have no issue with ABBA being on. Like, I was listening to, my wife was here, and I've always joked about my eclectic. Like, I'll have a mixtape is all over the place. It makes sense to me, but it makes sense to nobody else. And like ABBA played, then Eminem, then like Unleash the Archers. My wife's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, it's like he has some kind of Alzheimer's. I will say YouTube, man, that's the greatest part. When you go into YouTube and you watch somebody and you find somebody new, there's something magical about that moment where you're like I didn't know who Pendulum was. That one, slightly electronic. Yeah. I don't know what electric, we even rock. And I heard one song, and when I brought it up in Discord, like Dopey Joe and you guys were like, "Oh, dude, they got this one," and I love that because it's almost like finding a new show.
Yeah,
but it's easier because it's only 3 to 7 minutes, and then you can just find all these different songs. I've done it with country a couple times too, which sounds weird because I know a lot of people diss on country, but there'll be a country song that I'll hear and I'll be like, "That's actually not that bad." Like Hank Williams Jr., I've listened to a bunch. ABBA, love me some Chelsea Wolfe. I don't know who that is. Do you guys know who Chelsea Wolfe is?
Nope.
Yeah, I've never heard that person. Well, is that your phone going off?
Did my phone vibrate?
I heard a vibration.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. Got anything? Oh, Johnny, what are you streaming for Saturday?
I'm streaming Baldurs Gate tomorrow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Making bad choices, no save scumming, because that would mean you're not
class?
A man. Oh, yeah.
I wasn't there last week. Yeah, what are you?
I am wizard. I'm wizard.
I am wizard.
All the elemental stuff.
Conjuration?
Conjuration.
Or evocation, sorry, right?
It's evocation, yeah. It's the strong spells.
It's dope.
Bit Lyra says, I opened for Unleash the Archers. Interesting. Nice. Yeah, Unleash the Archers... I don't like all their songs, but I like a lot of their stuff. I am a fighter, man, because I knew the other characters would take the classes. Yeah, I was just like, well...
What kind of fighter?
Well, I chose at first a weapon for each hand, but then I upgraded. I think I took one paladin level to get something. I like multi-classed once. That's one thing I always tell people. Feel free to multi-class once. You're only going to lose that one, whatever that one is. But if you have a little healing, a little loving, and you're getting your butt kicked, just like grab a cleric, one level of cleric or something, so you have like something you can use. And I realize that, man. You have so many skills if you multi-class. It's ridiculous. Like, it is legit ridiculous if you're attacking and you can heal yourself and maybe do like, some kind of magic to like hurt some people around you. It's like you can be a tank.
I went Shadow Monk and got 1 level in Rogue for sneak attack, and it's just been so
you're
much
sneaking
fun
and then shadow attacking out of it with the monk's attack?
Dude, so I'm in a place where it's all it's like all dark. So I could teleport anywhere, turn invisible whenever I want, teleport behind enemies, which gives me an advantage on attack roll, like a huge advantage. And I come and I sneak attack, and then boom, teleport somewhere else, and just fucking so much fun, man. It's just all cantrips, like you don't use other than like key points.
I think when it comes down to it, there's no. I still haven't seen a class that isn't useful. I mean, you can, you've got other people in your party to take on. So if you need a healer, there's there. If you need a rogue, they're there. So you can sort of do whatever you want and just enjoy playing.
Just role play whatever you want to play.
Yeah. Because I mean, in the end, you're still controlling all 4 of them or 5 of them. Did you guys see the mod that lets you have 14 people on your team or something?
Oh my god!
Yeah. I tried it just for the hell of it. I couldn't get it to work, but I saw other people were playing and they had like 8 people in their party. They were talking about some bugs, so I was like, I don't want to screw up a save game.
It's like you're commanding an army. Dude, the time to finish a battle must be fucking.
Or maybe it's faster because you have 8 guys doing damage.
Yeah, you just
like I had a magic spell,
turns.
and I can't remember the name, but it is the most useful magic spell to me in the game, and it circles the character with cherubs, like angel like guardians that do damage. So when anybody gets close, I'm like, and they come in and it hits them right away, and it's such it feels good.
I like the clouded daggers. I like.
Oh yeah, clouded daggers looks awesome, and that's one thing. Some of the spells look like whatever, but you get the occasional couple spells that look sweet, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. I love casting the doppelganger or blur. Yeah,
and I love Eldritch Blast so much, dude.
Which one's that one? Oh yeah, no, I have Eldritch Blast.
Cantrip.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was. Fighter Warlock is what I chose.
Eldritch Knighter.
Yeah.
Oh, Eldritch Knight. Yeah.
I do think that, like I said, if you're listening and you want to play it, don't worry about what class you choose. Go crazy. I still metagame it by choosing a class I don't like for the second save game. We had a bunch of people who said that worked for them too, where they chose a class that they did not think they would like on purpose. And I told them, it's like you come into it with a different mentality if you're a druid, because you're just like, you've never been one before. And it's sort of fun to be surprised by stuff. Bring a familiar in, which is always fun. That'll be it for us.
I'm doing a ranger.
You're doing a ranger on another?
Yeah, with my friend, because we're doing Aragorn and Legolas. Okay, I know they were pretty basic, but
you're doing Aragorn
just role playing.
Oh, gotcha.
Aragorn and Legolas, like role playing as them. We were gonna do Lost characters because we've been watching Lost together. So I was gonna be like John Warlock, but I didn't think I'd like Ranger. But it's a lot.
Dude, you could be Sawyer.
Yeah,
Sawyer would be cool.
Sawyer would be like
just like a jerk. His superpowers.
I mean, every time we play D&D, that's the first thing I tell somebody is if you've never
Get
played,
an archetype.
Just choose a person you've seen in a show that you sort of like their idea, and it will make role playing 1,000 times easier because you come out of it and go, oh, this guy would probably do this.
You can always ask, what would this person
do? This person do?
I remember the first time we were playing, people were like, oh, Robin Hood, Kevin Costner and Robin Hood. And I was like, that works, because that's all you need is to sort of have some thought process of what, that person might do. And it makes it so much easier for people who get into D&D. And there's so many options. So that'll be it for us. Speaking of options, your only option is to quit. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. It's 3 hours and 40 minutes in, so we're going to go. Thank you for the super chats. Thanks for watching. Peace out, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your week, which is only maybe 0 hours.